There were usually guards posted around places with treasure. As for the little fishmen and water elementals outside, they could be considered, at most, as guard dogs. They were unfit to guard an important treasure. Xueqi did not dare to stay any longer. After all, there was still a large group of monsters chasing after him. He hurriedly ran towards the inner regions of the cavern. The cavern was very large. There was a flight of stairs that led straight into the depths of the cavern, and following it down ought to lead Xueqi to the Philosopher's Stone. When Xueqi was right before the stairs, a sea of water elementals and little fishmen had rushed at him. It was as if they had an undying grudge against him. You lower life forms dare to sully this divine place? Prepare to receive divine punishment. Floyd's gaze suddenly erupted in rage, pulling out a dark golden greatsword from his back. The sword gave out a surge of evil that made it seem as if it were the master of the world. When Floyd raised the great sword, the surrounding air started becoming heavy. Following which, Floyd gave out a loud bellow as his arms swung the great sword with all their might. A strong wind, followed by a sword flash, swept through all the water elementals and little fishmen. Each and every one of the monsters turned into ash, and the cavern's entrance instantly transformed into a pile of rubble. Strong! Xueqi exclaimed in shock. He had sorely underestimated the strength of a brave one. Floyd's single sword could easily wipe out a 100-men group of level 30 elite players. A 300-men group might be needed to even have a fighting chance. It was unexpected that the water elementals and little fishmen did not even have the right to become guard dogs. They were all annihilated in an instant. Xueqi wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead. Luckily, he was a human and not a lower life form. Otherwise, his outcome would be similar to those water elementals and little fishmen. This place is truly vicious. I guess I can only go downward now. Xueqi looked at the collapsed entrance. Not even an earthworm could find a way through the debris. The stairs that led down were spiral-shaped. The rocky walls surrounding it were also enchanted with a kind of light-based magic, brightening the entire stairwell. However, this stairwell was extremely long. Fortunately, there were no dangers here. After walking for an entire half an hour, Xueqi finally arrived at the end of the stairwell, at the beginning of a wide and spacious hall. The hall was about the size of an entire football field, and it looked similar to a shrine of sorts. Made out of gold and jade, the two sides of the hall were carved with an abundance of illustrations and texts. There was also an altar at the deepest part of the shrine. Above the altar was a treasure chest made of pure gold. On each side of the treasure chest, there were two statues made of gold, both of them holding a great sword in their hands. System. Player has discovered the Sun Temple. Sun Temple. It was the first time Xueqi had heard this name. In his previous life, there was no information on the Sun Temple. It might have been because no player had activated it before, so there was no information about it on the official website. However, looking at the situation, it should be very dangerous. However, Xueqi couldn't care less about it as he walked towards the golden altar. His target was the Philosopher's Stone, and the golden chest before his eyes should be holding the item. The moment Xueqi stepped onto the altar, he clearly felt a chill permeating his body. The chilliness came from the two gigantic golden statues. Xueqi did not know what sort of consequences there would be if he continued onwards to retrieve the Philosopher's Stone. However, he no longer had any choice. The cavern's entrance had already been sealed off, so he could only decide after grabbing the Philosopher's Stone. Xueqi slowly opened the golden treasure chest. Golden rays of light leaked out from the chest, illuminating the entire temple. Subsequently, the golden rays started to fade, revealing 3 items inside the chest. Xueqi pocketed the items with zero hesitation. Crap! How could the Philosopher's Stone end up in such a state? Xueqi looked at the thumb-sized blood-red stone, feeling extremely disappointed. Philosopher's Stone, damaged. Epic rank special item, dropped after death. A sacred item for alchemy, the Philosopher's Stone can be used to turn stone into gold, revive the dead, and has many more unfathomable uses. However, the Philosopher's Stone was damaged and broken into 5 pieces by the Sword Emperor, Knight. Nevertheless, the Philosopher's Stone possesses immense strength. As long as the 5 pieces are gathered, it will be able to recover all of its strength. Active effect. Due to being damaged, the Philosopher's Stone possesses less than 1/10 of its original strength. It is only possible to use it for alchemy conversion and elemental refinement. Although the effects were greatly reduced, Xueqi was still satisfied with it. These two abilities would enable Xueqi to accomplish a lot. As for the remaining two items, one of them was the Golden Greatsword, a level 10 fine gold weapon. The other item was an instantaneous movement magic scroll. A great treasure indeed. Xueqi looked at the Golden Greatsword in his hands with extreme excitement. Aside from magic weapons, it was the best item a level 10 player could have. If a level 10 player were to equip this great sword, they could definitely become invincible amongst players of the same level. At this moment the two statues by the side shook. Their eyes released a red glow, locking their sights on Xueqi. Xueqi used the instantaneous movement magic scroll without hesitation. Golden-colored magical seals suddenly wrapped around Xueqi. The spell on the magic scroll had a cast time of 3 seconds, and it was capable of sending the player to a selected location. This magic scroll was extremely precious. Although there were only a few copies of it in the entire God's domain, dying in this place was a much greater loss to Xueqi. Just as Xueqi was about to be slashed by the golden statues, he vanished from the temple. Chapter 41. Commotion in Town. Red Leaf Town. Fountain Plaza. The entire plaza was dyed crimson by the setting sun. There were quite a lot of lifestyle players setting up food stalls and selling snacks that were unique to God's domain. These snacks tasted delicious, and they were much better than the delicacies in real life. Also, their selling price was just 2 or 3 coppers. It was truly a bargain. Many players would come here to rest and taste the delicacies of God's domain after a day's worth of hard-fought battles. After all, they could only earn tens of coppers in a single day, and after deducting the expended costs, they would only be left with slightly over 10 coppers. So, giving them a treat should not be a problem. There were quite a few couples sitting on the stone benches, chatting. They ate the food they bought as they enjoyed a lovely time. Suddenly, every player in Red Leaf Town received a system announcement. System. A player has triggered a special storyline. Insurrection of the Little Fishmen has been activated. An expedition quest has been activated in Red Leaf Town. Players can now receive the expedition quest from the Adventurers Guild. Completing the expedition quest will reward players with bountiful rewards and guild reputation. All the players were shocked. In Red Leaf Town, a place where quests were extremely rare, there was actually an expedition quest. Moreover, the rewards were great. It was truly unimaginable. Who was the awesome person that actually triggered a special storyline? The player who achieved this feat attracted the attention of every player in Red Leaf Town. Everyone wondered what great rewards this player gained for activating the storyline. After all, activating a storyline was definitely a rare occurrence. So, how could the rewards be few? Quite a lot of players started having their own wicked thoughts. They wanted to kill off the player who activated the storyline quest. Unfortunately, the system announcement did not reveal the player's name. Compared to the average players, the various large guilds were in a state of turmoil. At this stage of the game, aside from clearing dungeons, there was not a single quest that was capable of increasing guild reputation. A guild required guild reputation to level up. As long as their guild could reach level 2 a step earlier, they would be able to obtain the corresponding guild benefits, creating a large advantage over the other guilds. Currently, the other towns surrounding Scarlet River also received the same system announcement. It wasn't just Red Leaf Town. All of the large guilds began strategizing a plan for their crusade against the Little Fishmen. Meanwhile, Xueqi, who was the cause of all this commotion, currently sat inside the auction house. The auction house was a very convenient place. The items placed on auction by players were not just limited to Red Leaf Town. They could be seen and bought in the hundreds of towns and small cities under the influence of White River City. However, the auction house was very cunning. They charged a 5% handling fee for all items auctioned, so the items there are usually very expensive. However, the auction house was unquestionably the best place for players to sell certain items anonymously. Also, it had been quite some time since God's domain started. The players had already amassed quite an amount of coins, and the large guild should have already piled up a lot of funding. If Xueqi were to set up a stall in Red Leaf Town, not only would he attract attention, he might also be targeted by people like Flaming Tiger. More importantly, The reason Xueqi chose the auction house was that there were too few players in Red Leaf Town who could afford the items he planned to sell. However, it was a different story if there were hundreds of towns competing for them. Hence, Xueqi placed a mysterious iron plate armor on the auction house, setting its base price at 25 silver coins. Then he placed 5 pieces of bronze equipment, with the base price of the plate armor at 3 silver coins, and the others at 2 silver coins. As for the level 10 fine gold greatsword, the result of placing it on auction would be too terrifying to imagine. This weapon was worth at least 2 gold coins, which was the equivalent of 200 silver coins. Currently, even 1 silver coin was extremely precious, so who would be able to even afford the weapon? Following which, Xueqi searched his bag via the half-transparent screen. Initially, players were gifted with a bag that had 100 slots. However, it was far from enough for Xueqi. Every player could equip a maximum of 7 bags. So, Xueqi immediately bought 6 of the largest bags currently available. Each of the bags had 25 slots, and each sold for 40 copper coins. 6 bags meant 240 copper coins. Such an amount was definitely unaffordable to normal players, but it was just a small sum to Xueqi. Xueqi's storage space increased by a lot after equipping the 6 bags. Afterward, Xueqi left the auction house and set up a stall not far from it. He was not the least bit interested with the storyline quest he triggered. He would not fight over the rewards with the others. He already had his fill, so it was only proper for the others to have the leftovers. Buying magic essences and stones in bulk. A stack 2 of magic essences for 6 coppers. A stack of stones for 10 coppers. Xueqi loudly shouted. At this stage of the game, magic essences were some of the materials needed to practice enchanting, whereas stones were one of the building materials engineers needed. However, many level 0 to level 3 monsters would drop these materials when killed, so they were barely worth anything. The materials the many guilds obtained were also sufficient to supply their own lifestyle players, so they would never buy any of them. As for normal players, they would only occasionally buy these materials. However, there was still an ocean of players that did not know how to deal with these materials. They would usually sell these materials to NPCs at a low price. A stack of 20 bottles of magic essence sold for 5 coppers, and a stack of 100 stones sold for 9 coppers. Xueqi bought them at a price of 1 copper coin higher, so there were quite a lot of players who were willing to sell their materials to him. An extra copper per stack would still be quite a significant income. Magic essence was one of the required materials to make the Garrison armor. Besides that, large amounts of copper ore and bronze ore were also needed. These ores were scarcely available, and all the large guilds bought them in bulk. Unfortunately, it was very difficult to get a hold of them. Xueqi also originally planned to grind for ore. However, now that he had the Philosopher's Stone, ore was no longer a problem. The Philosopher's Stone could carry out elemental refinement. That meant it could refine stone. There was a great chance to obtain ore, even rare ore. There was absolutely no need for Xueqi to personally grind for them. He could just buy them at an extremely low price. Because of this, tens of thousands of players had effectively become Xueqi's laborers. Very quickly, a large crowd of players had gathered in front of Xueqi. Big brother, I have 6 stacks of magic essence here. Will you take them? I have 3 stacks of stone. Do you want them? Many players started asking Xueqi, worried that his bag would fill. After all, they just had too many magic essences and stones. There were no players who were willing to buy these materials. However, it was also a shame to just sell them to the NPCs, so the materials just stayed inside their bags. I'll take all of them. Just trade them over, Xueqi said. Before this, Xueqi amassed quite a bit of wealth. Including his transaction with Gentle Snow, he was in possession of quite a lot of coins. Xueqi could definitely buy large amounts of magic essences and stones. A player was selling 3 stacks of magic essences here. A player was selling 5 stacks of stones there. Within moments, Xueqi had acquired 60 stacks of magic essences and 85 stacks of stones. The money that remained in his pockets was less than 10 coppers now. Sorry, but I'm full, Xueqi packed up his stall after explaining. Suddenly, the many remaining players who came to sell off their magic essences and stones had faces filled with disappointment. Big brother, will you still buy them in the future? A player asked. I will. However, it will still be a period before I do buy them. You all can save them up for now, Xueqi resolutely said. The amount of magic essences and stones Xueqi just purchased was far from enough for him to become an advanced forging apprentice 3. After leaving the business street, Xueqi arrived at the Forging Association. He paid 5 coppers to rent a basic forging room for 1 hour. Inside the basic forging room, all the equipment needed for forging was provided. Players did not need to buy their own equipment. The intermediate-ranked forging room was a lot better. It could increase the success rate of forging by 3%. However, it costs 1 silver per hour to use that room. As for advanced forging rooms, those were not available in small towns. They were only available in cities. However, their prices were extremely staggering. Chapter 42. Elemental Refinement. Forging Association. Inside a forging room. Xueqi took out a stack of stone, placing it on the table. A stack of stone had 100 pieces in total. They immediately filled up the round table. Some even fell to the ground. Time to see how good you actually are, Xueqi smiled as he retrieved the crimson-red Philosopher's Stone. If the Philosopher's Stone were seen by someone else, the consequences Xueqi would face would be immense. Hence, Xueqi rented a forging room. Without his permission, nobody could enter the room. Xueqi took a piece of stone from the table and used the Philosopher's Stone on it. System. Do you wish to use the Philosopher's Stone for elemental refinement? Xueqi immediately chose yes. Following which, the Philosopher's Stone started emitting a faint red glow. A mysterious power flowed into the stone. Pang! The stone the size of a fist suddenly turned into yellow sand, scattering to the ground. The result was a failure. However, Xueqi revealed a calm smile at the result. It did not perturb him in the slightest. Afterward, he picked up another stone and tried again. Ore was very precious. A normal copper ore sold for 2 coppers. They were only worth 1 copper coin if sold to an NPC. A stack of 100 copper ore could be sold for 200 copper coins to guilds, and they would still fight over them. Compared to a stack of stone, which only sold for 10 copper coins, copper ore was just too expensive. Elemental refinement extracted the metal element out of the stone. However, some stones did not possess any metal element. So, it was only natural that they turned to sand. Such failures were just too common. Pang, pang, pang. There was still no ore after 10 consecutive tries. Xueqi started becoming depressed. The success rate was just too low. Xueqi even started to suspect that these stones were picked from a desert to result in all the yellow sand. Relax, relax. There are still many stones left. Xueqi sucked in a deep breath, reassuring himself. He picked up another piece of stone, trying elemental refinement once more. Pang! This time, the stone still scattered into a pile of sand. However, in the middle of the yellow grains, there was a piece of metal that had a purplish-red luster. It was copper ore. With the first piece of copper ore in his hands, Xueqi let out a relaxed breath. His hands started moving at a faster pace. All the stones above the stone table turned into yellow sand within moments. The stack of stones had yielded a total of 23 pieces of copper ore and 2 pieces of bronze ore. Compared to copper ore, the price of bronze ore was 3 times that of copper ore. They were worth 3 copper coins when sold to NPCs. Due to the rarity of bronze ore, players would buy them at 7 copper coins apiece. Seeing the ores on the table, Xueqi felt the Philosopher's Stone was truly a gold mine. Even if the Philosopher's Stone was currently damaged, it was still out of the ordinary. It was no wonder why many kingdoms were willing to muster up their armies and fight for the Philosopher's Stone. Having the Philosopher's Stone in hand was the equivalent of having a wealthy treasury. At that time, a kingdom would find it hard not to become prosperous. Xueqi kept the ores on the table and brought out another stack of stones. Stack after stack of stones disappeared, whereas the amount of yellow sand had piled up into a small hill. Fortunately, the forging room could be cleaned of rubbish with just a click of a button. After pushing the clean button, the small hill of yellow sand vanished from sight. After spending an hour's time, Xueqi had refined 40 stacks of stones. He had obtained a little over 7 stacks of copper ore and a little over 1 stack of bronze ore. They would be worth over 20 silver coins if Xueqi sold them. Meanwhile, the cost of obtaining these ores were only 4 silver coins. The difference was 5 times the price. It was an absolute profit. Most importantly, ores dropped in very small numbers, so it was impossible to buy them in bulk. Xueqi received a system notification the moment he had left the forging room. System: the violent bear armor you placed at the auction house has been sold. After deducting the procedural fees, 31 silvers 53 coppers have been placed in your bag. System: the dark star boots you placed at the auction house has been sold. After deducting the procedural fees, 3 silvers 21 coppers have been placed in your bag. A series of notifications from the auction house had caused Xueqi's lips into a smile. As expected, the greater the competition, the higher the price would go. Xueqi was very satisfied with the amount the items sold for. He never imagined that a mysterious iron plate armor for shield warriors could actually be sold for over 30 silver coins. It seems there were a lot of wealthy people within the area of influence of White River City. After selling the equipment, Xueqi had suddenly become a wealthy tycoon. With over 50 silver coins in his pockets, even his confidence was different now. Currently, players would still be happy over having 20 to 30 copper coins on their person. Xueqi already possessed more than 50 silver coins. Including the silver coins Gentle Snow owed him, if Xueqi were to sell off the copper ore he had immediately, he would instantly become wealthy with gold. However, he would not sell the ores. These ores were the foundation for Xueqi to earn big money. Following which, Xueqi rented the forging room for another hour. He turned the remaining stones into ores. His luck was better this time around. From 45 stacks of stones, he obtained 10 stacks of copper ore and 2 stacks of bronze oregon. With this, Xueqi had a total of 17 stacks of copper ore and 3 stacks of bronze oregon. It would be quite some time before Xueqi could use them all up. With money in hand now, Xueqi once more arrived at the central area of the Forging Association, at the administration area. Currently, there were quite a few forger players that were groomed by guilds, renting forging rooms. This is just evil. It actually costs 5 coppers for an hour. My guild just gave me 30 coppers. That's not enough at all. That's considered good already. At least the equipment is all there. Look at the forging equipment. Even the most common required a few silvers. An entire set would cost over 30 silver coins. It's just a blatant rip-off. You still haven't seen the intermediate forging room. It costs 1 silver an hour, but the room only increases your success rate by 3%. Even a first-rate guild would not be able to handle such a price. A few forgers continuously complained. They bitterly detested the prices set by the Forging Association. However, there was also a hint of bragging carried in their voices. After all, they had the support of their guilds, whereas normal players wouldn't even be able to rent a forging room, not to mention increasing their forging levels. Xueqi circled these players, walking towards the manager of the association, saying, "I want to rent an intermediate forging room. May I know how long you wish to rent it for?" The ashen youth who was the association's manager excitedly asked. Currently, a majority of the adventurers were poor blokes. Every one of them only rented the basic forging rooms, and even then, they rented with unwillingness. So, a great change occurred to the manager's servicing attitude when he was able to see a rich adventurer like Xueqi. Looking at the time, it was currently morning in the real world. When using the virtual gaming helmet, a person could not stay within God's domain for too long. 2 hours then, Xueqi said after some thought. "All right, here is your key. That will be a total of 2 silver coins." The manager handed the key over to Xueqi, smiling. Xueqi took out 2 shiny silver coins, placing them on the table and turning around to leave. The players who had previously been discussing the deviousness of the Forging Association were all dumbstruck. They even thought they were hallucinating. However, they were indeed silver coins on the table, and not the scarlet-yellow copper coins. "Crap, a tycoon," a male elementalist said in envy. "Brother Tycoon, little sister knows how to warm beds." Another pretty and flirtatious female player winked at Xueqi, flattering him. "Isn't it just some dirty money? I will definitely become an intermediate forging apprentice a step ahead of him," a male priest said in a sour tone, even though he knew it to be impossible. The facilities of the intermediate forging room were much better than the basic one. On the surface, the room itself only increased the success rate of forging by 3%. However, including the facilities that came with the room, the success rate was increased by at least 5%. To a forger,
A difference of 5% success rate was like the difference between heaven and earth.
Chapter 43. Book of Forging. Xueqi took the key to the intermediate forging room and went up the second floor, ignoring the flirting young lady. The first floor of the Forging Association only had basic forging rooms, whereas intermediate forging rooms were located on the second floor. When compared to the first floor, there were far fewer people on the second floor. There were only NPCs walking around. Players would not come to this place at all. Also, there were only 20 intermediate forging rooms, unlike the basic rooms, which numbered at 50. Xueqi entered the intermediate forging room. The room was much larger and refined. The facilities available were also better than the basic room, especially the hammer and flame. These two items were not simple at all. Xueqi held up the silvery white hammer that was placed on the iron-woven felt. 100 Refinement Hammer, Bronze Rank. Forging items. When forging, the success rate is increased by 3%. Requirements. Strength 4. Just this 100 Refinement Hammer alone was hard to obtain by players. The best hammers NPCs sold were common hammers. Those hammers did not increase the success rate of forging. As for stealing this 100 Refinement Hammer, it was an impossible task. Items that belonged to the forging room could not be taken away by players. The flame here was extraordinary as well. Instead of the usual scarlet, yellow color, the flame here burned with a scarlet, green color. It was not a common flame, but a mysterious flame. Xueqi took a look at its description. Scarlet Devil Flame, Tier 1 Mysterious Flame. Special item. Possesses extremely high temperatures. Items smelted with the flame will have higher purity. When refining potions or forging items, there will be a definite increase in success rates. Mysterious flames were rare and powerful flames. These flames had varying strength, and they could be categorized into 9 tiers. The first tier was the weakest, whereas the 9th tier was the strongest. However, even a first-tier mysterious flame was not something that could be easily obtained by players. Due to the mysterious flame's rarity, its price within God's domain was extremely high. Including the fact that both potion-making and forging required mysterious flames, the prices of mysterious flames had become even more shocking. There was once a Tier 4 flame that caused tens of first-rate guilds to fight over it. After the death of millions of players, the flame finally ended up in the hands of the world dominators. Not long after, a master potion maker in world dominators rose to become a grandmaster potion maker, increasing the influence of the world dominators by a large leap. Xueqi had a great yearning within him when he looked at the burning mysterious flame. It was the thirst of a forger. Just when Xueqi was in deep thought, he suddenly recalled a matter. On the second month of God's domain's operation, the third-rate guild, Glorious Light, had discovered a Tier 2 mysterious flame, Ice Blue Devil Flame. The flame was found in the 100 Ghosts Forest, and its discovery induced great envy into the other guilds. At that time, there were a lot of lifestyle players who had applied to join Glorious Light, allowing the guild's power to abruptly increase and becoming the tyrant of a small city. However, there were also many guilds who gathered information in secret, wanting to obtain a mysterious flame for themselves. Naturally, Shadow was no exception to this. Shadow had discovered the location and method of obtainment of the mysterious flame from Glorious Light's inner circle. Unfortunately, such mysterious flames only appeared once, never appearing again after they were gone. This discovery caused many guilds to waste their efforts. As he was thinking about the Ice Blue Devil Flame, Xueqi suddenly started having intentions towards this mysterious flame. If he could make it his own, it would definitely be of great help to him in the future when he started his own guild. Moreover, the flame would be of great help in pushing Xueqi to become a true forger. However, Xueqi still needed to hash out a proper plan to obtain the Ice Blue Devil Flame. He needed to prepare many things before he could obtain the flame. Following which, Xueqi took out the Garrison armor's forging design. Without wasting time, he immediately chose to learn it. System. You have learned how to forge the Garrison armor. Afterward, Xueqi placed all the needed materials onto the stone table. Then, he took out the immensely precious book of forging and started to forge. Xueqi was a basic forging apprentice. His success rate for forging a level 0 common equipment did not exceed 20%, and after a successful forging, there was a 40% chance for him to obtain 1 proficiency point. If Xueqi were to forge the Garrison armor, a level 3 bronze equipment, his chance of success would not exceed 5%. Successfully forging a piece of bronze equipment would bring an additional bonus, which was a 100% chance to obtain 2 proficiency points. However, 1,000 proficiency points were needed to become an intermediate forging apprentice. Obtaining such a large amount of points required equally large funding to support it. There was no way for a lifestyle player to support such a large sum of money by themselves. The forgers in guilds all started out by forging common equipment. There was not a single guild who would allow these lifestyle players to forge bronze equipment right off the bat. To begin with, they didn't even possess a forging design for bronze equipment, and even if they did, they wouldn't carry out such an action. The success rate of a basic forging apprentice was just too low, and the materials needed were just too expensive. A single failure would cost 1 silver coin or more. It was a loss that not even guilds could handle. Moreover, they couldn't even collect that many materials to make the equipment. However, Xueqi did not have such worries. He had the Philosopher's Stone, so he did not lack in resources. Furthermore, the materials needed to make the Garrison armor were cheaply priced. It only required 5 bottles of magic essences, 5 pieces of bronze ore, and 20 pieces of copper oregon. The cost of making the Garrison armor was only 80 copper coins. When compared to the cost of making other bronze equipment, it was at least 20 coppers cheaper. The Garrison armor also had very good attributes, so it was extremely welcomed. Xueqi wouldn't have to be troubled over figuring out how to sell it. The most important thing was the Book of Forging. The Book of Forging could increase the success rate of forging common equipment by 70%, bronze equipment by 50%, mysterious iron equipment by 30%, secret silver equipment by 20%, fine gold equipment by 10%, dark gold equipment by 5%, and epic equipment by 1%. With such attributes, the Book of Forging could allow a player to become a master forger easily and unimpeded. Basic forging apprentices originally had a 20% success rate at forging common equipment. Including the 70% from the book, the success rate would become 90%. Further including the facilities of the intermediate forging room and removing the possibilities of mistakes, the success rate of making common equipment was 99% or higher. Unless the player was a pig too, failure was impossible. The Book of Forging's frightening abilities could clearly be seen from this. As for the Garrison armor, Xueqi had a 5% success rate for making it. Including the 50% from the book, the 3% from the room's facilities, and also the effects of the mysterious flame, Xueqi now had a 60% success rate for making the Garrison armor. Not to mention bronze equipment. Even if common equipment had a 60% success rate, it would still drive forger players mad. Such a high percentage for success was something unimaginable to forgers. Following which, Xueqi started slowly making the Garrison armor according to the forging design's requirements. He first smelted the copper and bronze ore in the fire. After being in the fire for 5 minutes, the ore started to melt and form a lump. Afterward, Xueqi added in the magic essence, letting it burn for another minute before removing the red-hot ore and placing it onto the metal felt. The ore's scorching hot temperature caused Xueqi to sweat. However, Xueqi did not dare be careless, as the following process was the most important part. After finishing the preparations, Xueqi held the 100 refinement hammer and readied it to hammer the fiery ore. Dang, dang, dang. Sparks flew in all directions. The hammering sounds echoed throughout the wide forging room. Xueqi struck every hit with careful precision. In his previous life, Xueqi did not learn forging. He only learned the gathering skill. However, he still knew quite a lot about forging. After all, he had conversed with a master forger quite often, so he was knowledgeable to the degree of not making certain low-leveled mistakes. After hammering the ore over 100 times, Xueqi felt that it was perfect. Xueqi wiped away the sweat on his forehead, carefully selecting the crimson ore's interface and clicking the complete button. Following which, the red-hot ore started transforming. Within 5 seconds, it had transformed into a silvery gray-colored armor. On the surface, there seemed to be nothing wrong with it. However, equipment's successful forging did not just depend on its appearances. There was also its quality. Quality included the equipment's attributes and rank. Bronze equipment that was badly forged would have their ranks decreased to common, or their base attributes would not be up to standards. Hence, Xueqi selected the information of the armor, checking whether it was a success or a failure. Chapter 44. Change. Although Xueqi could handle failure, there was nobody who was willing to squander their money for no good reason. So, Xueqi was, more or less, slightly nervous. After Xueqi selected the option to check the armor's information, 3 words appeared on the panel. Identification in progress. The red loading bar slowly increased. The system was currently determining the statistics of the equipment. After 3 seconds had passed, the system finished identifying the armor and revealed the armor's information. Garrison armor, bronze rank plate armor. Level 3. Equipment requirement. Strength 10. Defense plus 22. Strength plus 2. Endurance plus 2. HP plus 150. Durability 35/35. Additional ability. Defensive power. Reduces damage taken by 3%. Restricted to shield warriors and guardian knights. System. Garrison armor has been successfully forged. Forging proficiency increased by 2 points. Obtained 800 EXP. Great! It even has an additional ability, defensive power. Xueqi was extremely happy when he saw the additional ability on the Garrison armor. He never imagined his first try at forging a piece of bronze equipment would be a success. He even obtained so much EXP. It was no wonder why the master forgers in his previous life never went out to grind, but their levels were not a bit low. Not only had the Garrison armor forged met the standard attribute values, but it also possessed an additional ability. Originally, the Garrison armor did not possess defensive power. However, when the forger exhibited extraordinary skill, coupled with the presence of the mysterious flame, there was a chance for an additional ability to appear on the equipment. In such occurrences, the price of the equipment would be increased to another level. Xueqi took his time sizing up the Garrison armor, feeling the texture of the silvery gray metal and admiring its eye-catching design. The average piece of bronze equipment was absolutely no match for it. Xueqi was very satisfied with his creation. Currently, common equipment was still the mainstream equipment for players. Even if players were to reach level 6 in the future, it would not be a surprise to find them wearing only common equipment. After all, it was too hard to obtain bronze equipment. As for the elite parties, just having 1 to 2 pieces of bronze equipment was considered being blessed. The Garrison armor could be used by both shield warriors and guardian knights. If Xueqi were to sell the armor, the elite parties would definitely welcome it. After all, the quality of an MT's equipment could ease the difficulty of conquering a dungeon a lot. Even if Xueqi were to set the price at 4 silver coins, these parties would still buy the armor, regardless the cost. As for the defensive power of the Garrison armor, its benefits towards a party's MT went without saying. Xueqi would not accept anything lower than 5 silver coins for this armor. With his first experience at successful forging, Xueqi continued forging Garrison armors. However, Xueqi took out the 100 refinement steel this time. He wanted to know what effects the steel would have when it was used to forge equipment. Within 10 minutes, the second Garrison armor took form. However, the color on this Garrison armor was different than the previous one. Instead of having a silvery gray color, it was pitch black now. After going through 3 seconds of identification, the system displayed the statistics to Xueqi. Garrison heavy armor, bronze rank plate armor. Level 3. Equipment requirement. Strength 14. Defense plus 25. Strength plus 2. Endurance plus 4. HP plus 150. Durability 40/40. Additional ability. Defensive power. Reduces damage taken by 5%. Restricted to shield warriors and guardian knights. System. Garrison heavy armor has been successfully forged. Forging proficiency increased by 2 points. Obtained 1000 EXPs. System. Due to your forging genius, forging proficiency has been increased by an additional 2 points. Currently, Xueqi had completely forgotten about the additional proficiency points that his forging talent gave him. Instead, his eyes were fixated on the Garrison heavy armor. The attributes on the armor were already comparable to a piece of level 3 mysterious iron equipment. The price tag on it was at least 10 silver coins. Xueqi never imagined that the 100 refinement steel would create such large changes. Xueqi had no choice but to admit that the item given by a master forger was not ordinary. Unfortunately, Xueqi only had 9 pieces of 100 refinement steel remaining. Naturally, now that Xueqi knew the effects of the 100 refinement steel, he would not simply squander them away. He would set them aside and use them when he had good equipment to forge. 2 hours quickly passed by. Xueqi forged Garrison armors without stopping during this time. He had obtained a total of 23 pieces of Garrison armor, but he also failed to forge 4 pieces. Xueqi was very satisfied with the result. A single, successfully forged Garrison armor could easily remedy the loss of the 4 failures. At the same time, Xueqi himself had also risen to level 3. His current level was not that far from the expert players. Moreover, his forging proficiency had increased to 44 points. Such an increase was at least 4 to 5 times faster than those forgers that belonged to guilds. Following which, Xueqi left the intermediate forging room and arrived in front of the auction house. He immediately auctioned off the 11 pieces of Garrison armor that did not possess defensive power, their base prices set at 4 silver coins. As for the Garrison armors and Garrison heavy armor that possessed defensive power, Xueqi placed them aside for now. He wanted to let these guilds and elite parties have a taste of the armor first. That way, the remaining Garrison armors could be sold at an even better price. Afterward, Xueqi set up a stall in the trade area, casually yelling out. Following which, many players ran over to Xueqi, selling their stones and magic essences to him. After purchasing the materials for half an hour, Xueqi took a look at the time. It was near nightfall in God's domain. The monsters at night became much more powerful and killing them became much more difficult. This period was not suited for leveling, and Xueqi should rest as well. Currently, he was still using the virtual gaming helmet, not the virtual gaming pod, to play God's domain. The virtual gaming pod could provide the energy and nutrients required by the player's body at any time. It could also stimulate the body's muscles, preventing the body from weakening due to playing God's domain for long periods. Xueqi's finger tapped and clicked, calling out the system interface and choosing to log off. Currently, within the cramped rented apartment, the sunlight had long since seeped through the windows and scattered throughout the room. The temperature within the room was also starting to rise. Xueqi took off the gaming helmet. He lifted up his body and stretched. After more than 10 hours of inactivity and lying on the bed, Xueqi's body was numbed throughout. He needed to move around before he could return to normal. Xueqi started doing push-ups, sit-ups, and other forms of basic training. In this extremely materialistic age, body training had already become indispensable in one's life. After tens of years of constant research, scientists have managed to obtain a huge breakthrough in strengthening the human body and prolonging its lifespan. Mankind could now retain their youth for a longer period. The breakthrough also increased the average lifespan of a person to 100 years old. At the same time, scientists had pointed out the necessity of working out the body. Henceforth, the age of exercise had arrived. In current times, sports tournaments and fighting competitions were the attention of the public eye. Just in the university alone, there were already plenty of sports societies and martial arts societies, and they were very welcomed by the students. In the current society, those who did not possess a trick up their sleeves would be looked down upon. On the other hand, those celebrity athletes and martial arts experts were absolutely revered. In the university, there was never a lack of beautiful women surrounding the distinguished athletes and students who often participated in mixed martial arts competitions. As for pretty boys, their time has long since faded from popularity. In his previous life, Xueqi did not pay much attention to his body. As a result, he nearly caused its destruction. By the time he wanted to train his body, he was no longer young. Even if he had trained with all his might, the effects would not be great. In this life, Xueqi would not be the same as before, naturally. He would not solely pay attention to God's domain, ignoring his body's training. After training for half an hour, Xueqi's entire body was covered with sweat. It looked as if he had just taken a shower. Just when he was about to dine on his cooked instant noodles, his phone started ringing. Xueqi looked at the contacting person. Unexpectedly, it was the usually silent female class monitor, Zhao Ruoshi. "Class monitor, what's up?" Xueqi asked after answering the call. According to Xueqi memories, aside from attending classes, Xueqi never had any contact with the female class monitor. Within the 4 years Xueqi had spent in the university, he had not spoken over 100 sentences with Zhao Ruoshi. Xueqi, hurry over to school. I failed to notify you of this because you do not live in the male dormitories, but now I'm telling you. At 11 o'clock, there will be an important matter being announced at Teaching Block 3, Classroom 401. Xueqi looked towards the electronic clock on his table. It was already 10:30 right now. He answered, "All right, I'll go there immediately." Chapter 45. The inferior student of the class. Cutting off the call, Xueqi immediately ate his instant noodles and hurried to school. When he was on the road, Xueqi finally recalled this incident. It was one of the reasons that caused his parents to fall gravely ill. In Xueqi's previous life, he and Blackie joined Shadow Workshop. When Zhao Ruoshi called him to go to the school, he chose to continue playing God's Domain instead of going. He joined Shadow Workshop after much trouble. If he wanted to rise in position within Shadow, he needed to have a good performance. How could he have the time to care about small matters that happened in the classroom? As a result, his university recommendation became non-existent. Although it was just a recommendation, it could allow students to find better jobs. The stress levels of the current society were extremely powerful, and jobs were not easy to find. Such a recommendation would be a stepping stone towards the higher levels of a company. Xueqi's parents were deeply worried after they found out about this incident. It was also because of such worries that caused the mental stress on his parents to increase substantially. Only, Xueqi's parents never revealed it to him. Instead, they encouraged him. They didn't want him to worry about their household debts. As a result, they became both physically and mentally exhausted, falling gravely ill a year later. In this life, Xueqi did not wish to repeat such a disaster, even if the recommendation was absolutely useless to him. However, he also wished to know the reason that caused him to lose the recommendation. Xueqi was considered average regarding results amongst his class. There were absolutely no problems with him obtaining the recommendation. He did not have a share in it. The only reason he could think of for such a situation was the incident that would happen today. After walking into the university, Xueqi discovered a very interesting situation. The school was crowded. There was an abnormal number of students in the university today. Usually, there would not be that many people within the university grounds. The students would usually study in the library or gather outside to have some fun. Worst case scenario, they would just stay in their dormitories and play games. Unlike the current situation, they wouldn't normally come out for a stroll. When Xueqi walked towards Teaching Block 3, he discovered that the normally empty classrooms were packed with people. All of them were fully occupied. What is happening today? Xueqi was puzzled. The moment Xueqi entered classroom 401, he could feel the air in the room was slightly odd. His classmates all shifted their gaze towards him, their expressions filled with astonishment. Xueqi was like something that should not be there, yet had actually appeared. The male students only glanced at Xueqi. They did not pay him any attention as they continued with their conversations. Meanwhile, some of the gorgeously dressed females in the class sent Xueqi expressions of disgust. However, Xueqi had long since gotten used to such reactions. When he was about to turn around and look at them, the females immediately turned their heads away. Fellow student Xueqi, you're here. Find a place to sit. When fellow student Ling Feilong arrives, everyone in the class will be present. The female monitor, Zhao Ruoshi, had a calm expression on her face when she spoke to Xueqi as if it was all just for formality's sake. However, Xueqi could faintly feel a hint of expectation in Zhao Ruoshi's eyes when she turned around to look at him. However, that expectation was not targeted towards him, but most probably towards the Ling Feilong she spoke of. All right. Xueqi nodded his head, simply choosing a corner to sit down in. As for sitting and starting a conversation with the other male classmates, Xueqi could tell it would be impossible just by looking at their expressions. In regards to such a situation, Xueqi could only let loose a bitter smile. In his previous life, he truly has failed at being a functioning human being. However, there was nothing he could do. To save money, he never participated in any of the student gatherings or class events. He had long since become an invisible existence within the class. In the eyes of his classmates, Xueqi might be a very reclusive person. Why is this person here? The class monitor should be the one who notified him. I never thought he would actually show up. He's just an inferior student in the class. Just looking at him makes me mad. Look at how cunning his eyes are. Don't tell me he took a fancy to this young lady? Disgusting. The students in the class started a quiet discussion about Xueqi. They were very shocked at Xueqi's arrival. Usually, Xueqi would never participate in any events, but now this person, himself, actually showed up. Their disgust towards Xueqi was clear in their speech. Their tones when speaking also showed how much they looked down on him. The reason for such treatment was because Xueqi was weak. He was also often bullied by students from other classes. Moreover, he was the inferior student who was always too poor to join the class outings. It was just an embarrassment to be in the same class as him. Although their voices were soft, Xueqi could still hear them clearly. It was better to say they let Xueqi hear their conversation. Learning was only secondary in everyone's eyes. The truly important thing to have was a strong body. After all, the current age was one where body training was strongly emphasized upon. However, Xueqi's weak body clearly did not fit the current age. So, naturally he had become an outcast within the class. However, Xueqi simply laughed away at his situation. He was no longer a child, so why would he be angry over the actions of these children? Currently, his heart was only concerned about the matters regarding the recommendation. Not long after, a robust youth entered the classroom. The youth's height was an entire 9 meters. This person was Ling Feilong. According to Xueqi's memories, Ling Feilong was a person with many tricks up his sleeve. After he graduated from university, he managed to woo the princess of a large corporation. 3 years later, he became the corporation's CEO. However, due to the virtual world's influence towards the real world growing ever larger, Ling Feilong invested in God's domain as well. At that time, he looked for Xueqi, his classmate, wanting to collaborate in God's domain. At that time, Xueqi was the captain of Shadow Workshop. He was also the guild leader of the guild, Shadow. Shadow was barely considered a second-rate guild during those times. However, it still had control over a large city with a population of 500,000 people. Considering they were once classmates, Xueqi agreed to Ling Feilong's proposal. Afterward, although Shadow earned quite a lot of money from the collaboration, Ling Feilong earned even more. At the same time, Ling Feilong groomed several powerful subordinates. Then, he somehow managed to gain the favor of a first-rate guild, abandoning Shadow. Everyone watched as Ling Feilong entered the classroom. The male students all stood up, displaying their respect towards him. On the other hand, the gorgeous female students from before sent meaningful gazes towards Ling Feilong. Even Zhao Ruoshi had some changes to her calm expression. Xueqi had plenty of experience with women in his previous life, so he could tell Zhao Ruoshi was somewhat interested in Ling Feilong. What kind of situation was this? Xueqi could not make heads of the current situation. It would be fine if it were just the other students, but Zhao Ruoshi was the class flower. She had a calm personality, an oval face, a graceful body, and even her family background were good. Normally, male students from other classes could be seen chasing after her. However, none of them ever entered her eyes. So why did she take a fancy upon Ling Feilong? Was Ling Feilong fated to become a protagonist in life, a person who was loved and welcomed by all? Everyone sit down. Like a leader, Ling Feilong naturally walked up to the lectern. He gratefully said, "Thank you for coming to congratulate me. I would not be here today were it not for all of your support. Brother Feilong, you are too humble. More than 5,000 people entered the school's fighting competition, yet you've managed to enter the top 10. You are the pride of our class. You now have the rights to enter Jinhai City's fighting competition without going through the pre-selections. This feat is not achievable by the average person. You mustn't forget about us once you've become a martial arts master in the future." "That's right, Brother Feilong. We're looking forward to you becoming the champion." The students in the class gave their congratulations one after the other. Some of the female students even thought of throwing themselves at Ling Feilong. However, Xueqi was an exception. He was truly dumbfounded. Originally, he thought a huge incident occurred, but it was just the school's fighting competition having just ended. They were only here to congratulate Ling Feilong for being able to enter the city's fighting competition. If it was before, Xuefeng might have envied Ling Feilong. After all, there were just too many people who liked fighting competitions. Those who were able to participate in the city's fighting competition were much more appreciated than some big celebrity. This was due to the difficulty of entering the fighting competition.
There was a strict selection system, and it was considered good to have 3 to 4 people selected out of 10,000.
If these selected participants performed well, they might even get a contract to become the spokesperson for a large enterprise. With all the celebrity advertisements that would be offered, it wouldn't be difficult to amass wealth. Their futures would have boundless prospects. However, along with the rise in popularity of God's domain, people became even more addicted to fighting battles and wars in the game. After all, being able to personally experience the fight was still the best experience. The lack of danger of fighting in the game only made it even more exciting. As a result, many experts became idols of the players in God's domain. Chapter 46. Meeting an Acquaintance.
As everyone was giving their congratulations to Ling Feilong, the person himself had his eyes swept over to a corner of the room, the corner where Xuefeng sat.
His eyes held a hint of dissatisfaction when he looked at Xuefeng. He was the pride of the class and, even more so, a future celebrity. Yet, an inferior student like Xuefeng actually did not intend to flatter him. After a round of flattery, Ling Feilong allowed the students to return to their seats. I thank everyone for your support. Please quiet down for a moment. I am here today because I have a matter that I wish to discuss, Ling Feilong said. Hearing Ling Feilong's announcement, everyone listened attentively. Only Xuefeng remained uninterested towards Ling Feilong's matter. However, Xuefeng could not help but pay attention after hearing Ling Feilong speak. It's something related to the school's recommendation. Ling Feilong calmly said, everyone knows how I am obsessed with fighting. However, my grades at school aren't that good, so it has caused some problems with my recommendation. So, I wish for someone here to give up a spot. The school has already agreed to this, so I am here to discuss this matter with everyone else. Brother Long, this is only a trivial matter. It is only a recommendation. As the pride of the class, as long as Brother Long requests it, there will definitely be someone in the class willing to give up their spot, a bootlicking male student said. Although everyone in the class agreed to this person's words, there was nobody who willingly stood up to give away their recommendation. In the end, finding a job was just too hard. The recommendation was much more valued than a person's educational background when working inside a big company. If they were to give up their recommendation, what would they do in the future?
As for the ones who had no rights to the recommendation, to begin with, naturally, it was easier to be brave standing from a safe distance.
They continuously incited the others like hot-blooded madmen. Ling Feilong's expression slightly darkened when he saw nobody taking initiative. Since everyone is reacting so proactively, it won't be good if I'm the one who does the choosing. How about this, let's raise our hands and vote, Ling Feilong suggested with a smile. That's a good idea. Brother Feilong is the smartest. Then let's start voting. The hot-blooded madmen all stood up one after another, their faces holding expressions of delight at the misfortune of others. Xuefeng, who sat by the wall, was suddenly enlightened after looking at this scene. Crap. So it was these bastards who stole my recommendation. A wrathful flame ignited within Xuefeng's heart. He was truly a fool in his previous life for actually working with Ling Feilong. Not in this life, however. If Ling Feilong wished to cause trouble for him in this life, he couldn't be blamed for reacting in kind. Maybe it was a continuation of his previous life, but the voting results did not change in the slightest. The students immediately sat Xuefeng on the throne. Fellow student Xuefeng, you are really lucky. I'm slightly envious of you. You'll get to have Brother Long cover for you from now on. You should be grateful to us. Everyone in the class started congratulating Xuefeng as if Xuefeng had just won a 5 million credit lottery. Fellow student, Xuefeng, thank you, truly. After school is over today, I invite you to come with me for a drink at the Maple Leaf Bar. Ling Feilong smiled a hypocritical smile. He did not place Xuefeng within his sights at all. There was not a hint of gratitude in his tone, only disdain. Following which, he turned to look at the other students saying, of course, everyone else is also invited. Let us enjoy ourselves today. Hold on a moment, Xuefeng suddenly said. Suddenly, Everyone in the class turned their sights towards Xueqi. If Xueqi did not actively speak up, they might have long since forgotten about his existence. May I know if fellow student Xueqi has something he wishes to say? Ling Fialong looked towards Xueqi, asking with a smile. I will not agree with this, so why are you getting all joyous all on your own? Xueqi shot a glance at Ling Fialong saying, if any of you wish to give him your recommendation, then just give it to him. In any case, I won't be letting go of my recommendation. If there are no other matters, I'll be leaving. Suddenly, the entire classroom became dead silent. Nobody could imagine that Xueqi, a person constantly bullied by students of other classes, actually rebelled against Ling Fialong. His current display was very abnormal. Was Xueqi not afraid of being taken out by Ling Fialong? Ling Fialong as well was shocked, not because of Xueqi's actions however, but at Xueqi's foolishness. Did he actually think he could protect his recommendation just because he had refused to hand it over? This was a result voted by the entire class. It would be meaningless, even if Xueqi refused. When the time came, the university would still give him the recommendation. Even though the result was unchangeable, Xueqi still foolishly chose to stand against him. Should Xueqi be called foolish? Or did he have a few screws loose? Just when Ling Fialong wanted to take action, an impatient voice sounded from outside the door. Little Long, are you still not done? Brother Zhang doesn't like to be kept waiting. A tall blonde youth came in through the door. Following behind him was an alluring girl dressed in sexy and revealing clothing. The two together caused the male students to look on in envy. Xueqi shot a glance over, discovering that it was actually an acquaintance. The tall and blonde youth was coincidentally Flaming Tiger. His real name was Zhou Yuhu, and he was a fourth-year university student, similar to Xueqi. This person had great talent, and he managed to obtain a good result of third place in the university's fighting tournament this time around. Meanwhile, the enchanting female by Zhou Yuhu's side was also an acquaintance of Xueqi's. Her name was Qin Shuyu, and she was Xueqi's classmate during high school. She was also the flower of the class at the time. Xueqi was truly blind during those times. Young and dumb, he was actually enchanted by Qin Shuyu, even to the point of confessing his love to her. Naturally, the result was rejection. After entering university, Qin Shuyu had become Zhou Yuhu's girlfriend. Qin Shuyu even mentioned to Zhou Yuhu the matter of Xueqi's confession. As a result, Xueqi was often taken care of by students from other classes. After Xueqi joined Shadow, he was often sent to carry out senseless tasks, stunting his growth in God's domain. Brother Hu, why have you come here? I'll immediately go after I'm done settling my business here. When Ling Fialong saw the person who had arrived, he respectfully went up to welcome him with a smiling face. How much longer do you need? I don't have that much time to waste, Zhou Yuhu wrinkled his brows, impatiently saying. He was parted from his duties as team leader today all because of that Yifeng character, and he had only recently risen to level 2. Afterward, he was even given a scolding by Brother Zhang. These occurrences caused him to become greatly irritated deep within his heart. 2 to 3 minutes should be enough, Ling Fialong replied. He felt teaching Xueqi the ways to be a proper person should not be a big problem. Good, then hurry up, Zhou Yuhu demanded. Currently, Qin Shuyu's eyes unintentionally landed on Xueqi. Her expression was suddenly turning sour. She had no good impressions of Xueqi. He had neither money nor power. There was not the slightest feeling of safety or strength coming from him. When compared with Zhou Yuhu, the difference between the two was hundreds and thousands of miles apart. Xueqi even confessed to her without knowing his own worth. It was just an insult to her person, and as a result, she was often made fun of by the other girls. Seeing the disgust on Qin Shuyu's face, Zhou Yuhu hooked up her chin with his robust hand, teasingly saying, "Baby, I'll take care of him for you immediately, lest he shows up in front of you again." Qin Shuyu faintly smiled as she nodded, not having any intention of stopping Zhou Yuhu. "Hey brat, come over here," Zhou Yuhu pointed his finger at Xueqi, loudly roaring. Everyone was shocked at seeing Zhou Yuhu's imposing manner. Who was Zhou Yuhu? He was ranked 3rd in the school's fighting tournament. He was much more powerful when compared to the 9th-ranked Ling Fialong. A single hit from him was enough to send a person to the hospital for half a month. Ling Fialong naturally understood what was happening before him.
Zhou Yuhu was irritated by Shifeng and wished to take care of him. Originally, he too wanted to teach Shifeng a lesson and let the entire class know of his prowess. If he were to take care of Shifeng right now, not only would he be helping himself, but he would also be able to sell a favor to Zhou Yuhu. He would be killing two birds with one stone. Hence, Ling Feilong stepped forward and volunteered. Brother Hu, no need for you to personally take action. Originally, I already wanted to teach this kid a lesson. Give me 30 seconds. Little long, so the matter you had to deal with before was this.
Zhou Yuhu looked towards Shifeng in disdain.
He licked his lips, saying with a cold smile, better to let me.
I also wish to loosen my bones a little. Saying this, Zhou Yuhu walked towards Shifeng with a cold smile. Chapter 47. I think highly of you. Zhou Yuhu walked towards Shifeng in an imposing manner. He wanted to personally teach Shifeng a good hard lesson this time. On previous occasions, he always sent others to handle it for him. However, Shifeng still did not learn to be good. Today, he wanted Shifeng to imprint this lesson onto his bones.
The people present could all see the conclusion that was coming for Shifeng. In a society where the entire population underwent body training, fights between students were all too common. Even minor injuries were very common. As long as it didn't go overboard, it would not cause an incident. However, looking at Zhou Yuhu's current attitude, Shifeng would be staying in the hospital for at least a month. At that time, Shifeng would be wearing a cast while receiving his graduation certificate on the stage.
Hold it, Zhou Yuhu. This is our class.
On what basis does an outsider like you have to come and bully someone from our class?
Zhao Ruoshi's delicate body suddenly blocked Shifeng. She was not the slightest bit threatened by Zhou Yuhu's imposing aura as she berated him. Zhou Ruoshi's actions unquestionably left everyone else in shock. They never imagined that the normally gentle and graceful Zhao Ruoshi would stand up for an inferior student. She was even challenging Zhou Yuhu. She had such a strong heart to be so brave. Ruoshi, don't stir up trouble. Brother Hu only wishes to give Shifeng some pointers. This should be Shifeng's good fortune.
Shifeng is always being bullied by others, but with Brother Hu's pointers, he might have some growth and learn to be a proper person, Ling Feilong explained with a smile. Due to Zhao Ruoshi's above-average appearance and attractive curves, he long since treated her as his personal property. Never would he have imagined that she would stand up for Shifeng. Suddenly, the rage towards Shifeng burned even greater in his heart. However, it would not be good for him to reveal that rage, so he simply tugged at Zhao Ruoshi's delicate hand. He wanted to pull her away, stopping her from being a hindrance. Fellow student Ling Feilong, as the pride of the class, are you just going to watch as one of our classmates being bullied? Zhao Ruoshi shook off Ling Feilong's hand, looking at him and asking angrily. She originally thought Ling Feilong was in possession of a good personality. He also performed exceptionally in the fighting competition. So, she thought he was a good prospect. However, she didn't think that he was just a hypocrite. Ruoshi, how could you say such a thing about me? You are misunderstanding. It isn't my fault that Shifeng does not know how to be a proper person. Now that Brother Hu is going to teach him how to become one, it would be beneficial to him in the future, Ling Feilong said with a righteous expression as if everything occurring was for Shifeng's own good. You! Zhao Ruoshi was greatly angered by Ling Feilong. She promptly turned toward Shifeng, saying, hurry up and leave. I'll hold him off. This little girl is interesting and very sexy. I like it. Zhou Yuhu's eyes started sizing up Zhao Ruoshi, liking very much what he saw. His lips could not help but curl up into an evil grin as his hands stretched to caress Zhao Ruoshi's delicate face. He was no longer paying any attention to Shifeng. However, before his salty pig hand could touch Zhao Ruoshi, it was slapped away by another. Zhou Yuhu, since you wish to trade notes with me, I can agree. However, just trading notes would not have much meaning to it. How about we spice it up a little? Shifeng proposed with a calm smile. He took a step forwards, tugging on Zhao Ruoshi's jade-like arm and pulling her to a side. Zhao Ruoshi did not react to Shifeng's actions at all. Until she was dragged behind him, she only then began to look at Shifeng's average stature in stunning shock. When did Shifeng become so manly? However, she also felt Shifeng was very foolish. How could he trade pointers with Zhou Yuhu? Now, Zhou Yuhu would have an excuse to teach Shifeng a lesson. Zhou Yuhu rubbed the reddened back of his hand, enraged. He glared at Shifeng, suddenly discovering Shifeng's current appearance was very calm and stable. It was as if Zhou Yuhu was looking at an entirely different person. Before, Shifeng would easily be incited and get into fights with others. Now, however, not only was he not aroused, but he was also smiling happily. Was his brain damaged? Ling Feilong was deeply enraged when he saw Shifeng's stretched arm actually touching Zhao Ruoxi. He could not help but wish he could take action immediately. However, he still held it in. He was prepared to put Shifeng in his place in the future. Kid, you actually dare to challenge me. Truly interesting. Then I'll wager 1,000 credits. If you win, the 1,000 credits will be yours to keep. If you lose, then kneel and apologize to me, and also, compensate me with 1,000 credits. How about it? Do you dare to agree? Zhou Yuhu furiously smiled. He never thought Shifeng's brain was truly damaged, daring to even provoke him. Such a petty wager. Aren't you embarrassed from saying it out loud? Shifeng shook his head and snorted in disdain. Your guts sure have grown after not meeting for a few days. Say it then, what kind of wager do you want? Zhou Yuhu was angered into a laugh. He knew Shifeng was poor, and he could not even afford the 1,000 credits. Now though, he had actually dared to increase the bargaining chip. Was he complaining that he didn't have a quick enough death? It seems his brain was truly wedged between a door. Didn't you win a membership card for the Big Dipper Training Center from the school's fighting competition? Use that as the wager. If I lose, I'll pay 10,000 credits to you a month later. If you don't have the courage to wager, then forget it. Shifeng provokingly said. In Shifeng's previous life, Zhou Yuhu showed off this membership card in front of others. Now, Shifeng could coincidentally use it to train his body. The Big Dipper Training Center was well known in Jinhai City. It had a great environment, and its training facilities were very thorough. The average person was not allowed to enter the training center at all, not to mention obtaining a VIP membership there. A normal membership was worth around 8,000 to 9,000 credits. Even if I wager this card, where would a poor wretch like you find that much money? I won't believe in empty words. Zhou Yuhu laughed coldly. Indeed, it was as Zhou Yuhu had said. Shifeng had not a penny on him at the moment, not to mention 10,000 credits. Hence, why he had said he would pay a month later. However, Zhou Yuhu would clearly not believe him. Instead, Zhou Yuhu turned around to mock him. It would seem Shifeng's plan was going to be dashed this time. Shifeng, did you think I don't know about your living conditions? You are so poor you can't even afford to have a good meal, yet you're still pretending to be wealthy. Qin Shuyu shot Shifeng a glance, commenting in disdain. I'll pay the 10,000 credits, Zhao Ruoxi abruptly said. Ling Feilong's eyes turned crimson when he saw Zhao Ruoxi standing up once again. He couldn't help but wish he could get rid of Shifeng right this instant. Shifeng was also shocked. He looked towards Zhao Ruoxi, astonished. He did not understand how Zhao Ruoxi had that much money. He wasn't very clear of Zhao Ruoxi's family background, either. Shifeng only knew that her family was relatively well off. However, Zhao Ruoxi was actually so believing of him, even to the degree of betting her money on him. Shifeng could not understand why she had done so. To begin with, the relationship between the two of them wasn't that great. Zhao Ruoxi looked at Shifeng. She knew the reason for Shifeng's astonishment. However, to not let him misunderstand, she quietly explained. I'm only lending you the money because I can't stand Zhou Yuhu's arrogant attitude. I think highly of you, so even if you lose, lose with dignity. Thank you. I will definitely return twice the amount to you, Shifeng gratefully said. This money was very important to him. Now, Zhou Yuhu would definitely agree to the wager. After Shifeng obtained the membership card, he would be able to regularly train his body. It was better to start training earlier, rather than later. The earlier Shifeng could train his body, the larger the benefit it would have to his future. Zhao Ruoxi had helped him greatly this time. When he started earning money in God's domain, paying Zhao Ruoxi an extra 10,000 would even be considered too little. However, Zhao Ruoxi did not take Shifeng's words seriously. She only nodded with a smile. She did not think that Shifeng could return her money, not to mention double the amount.
Ha ha ha. Interesting. Then let's draw out the contract at the fighting arena. Zhou Yuhu licked his lips. He was even more interested in Zhao Ruoshi now. Although his luck in God's domain was bad today, his luck in real life was truly good. Not only had he found a good-looking girl, but he could also receive 10,000 credits for teaching Shifeng a lesson. It truly was a blessing in disguise. Following which, everyone arrived at the fighting arena built by the school. Shifeng and Zhou Yuhu signed a contract under the supervision of the Central Brain. Contracts acknowledged by the Central Brain were also recognized by the law. There was also a judge at the fighting arena. The judge was normally a teacher in the university who taught students how to fight. The judge also had good skills that would be used to promptly stop the fights to avoid any heavy injuries from occurring. The other students from the class stood below the fighting ring. They laughed at Shifeng's stupidity. Instead of being an invisible existence like usual, he actually went insane now. Not only did he oppose Ling Feilong, but he also angered Zhou Yuhu, who was even more terrifying. After today, Shifeng might never live a peaceful life ever again. Qin Shuyu looked above the ring, at the calm and steady Shifeng. The feeling he gave people was completely different from before. He currently radiated an indescribable sense of security. She even felt Shifeng's scrawny body had grown larger. Qin Shuyu quickly shook her head, mockingly saying, "How strong could a weakling, who doesn't even know a single fighting technique, be? He even dares challenge Brother Hu now. He truly is reckless." Chapter 48. An Unequaled Fight. None of the students below the ring had refuted Qin Shuyu's words. Instead, they felt her words made sense. No matter what was said, Zhou Yuhu was ranked third in the university's fighting tournament. He was also highly praised by several teachers who taught fighting. They predicted Zhou Yuhu would be able to create a reputation for himself in the upcoming city's fighting tournament. Not to mention teaching the weak and scrawny Shifeng a lesson. It was like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Even though he remains unyielding right now, I guess Shifeng will kneel and beg for mercy in a moment. Does that even need to be mentioned? Why don't you look at who Zhou Yuhu is? My guess is Shifeng will be lying on the floor within 10 seconds. The male students in the class started to laugh as they discussed Shifeng's end. What is wrong with you people? Is this how you treat a classmate of yours? Zhao Ruoshi asked, looking at her classmates with a furious expression. The students all turned silent. However, their eyes revealed a hint of disdain when they looked at Zhao Ruoshi. One of the gorgeously dressed girls in the class curled her lips in disdain, softly saying, "You just have somewhat good looks. If it wasn't for Brother Long, who do you think would listen to your words?" The other girls promptly nodded their heads. They were not taking their class monitor seriously at all. Although the female students spoke in soft tones, everyone present could hear them clearly. To the side, Ling Feilong felt invigorated as he enjoyed listening to their words. Zhao Ruoshi turned her head away in a rage, no longer paying attention to these people. Ling Feilong walked over to her and gently said, "Ruoshi, I know that you have no choice in this matter as the class monitor. However, Shifeng is the one finding trouble here, so you can't just blame everyone. Moreover, nobody believes Shifeng can win with that small body of his. You are literally throwing your money into the ocean. In a moment, I'll talk it over with Brother Hu to not take your money and let Shifeng pay for everything. Indeed, I am helping Shifeng because I am the class monitor. However, regarding the matter with the money, I have never thought of asking for it back from him." Zhao Ruoshi glanced at Ling Feilong, coldly saying, "On the other hand, you're the one who has taken the recommendation that is rightfully Shifeng's. Instead of helping Shifeng now, you're here making cynical remarks. Aren't you afraid of people criticizing you behind your back? Also, how can this be considered trading pointers? One is ranked third in the school, while the other is a student who doesn't even know any fighting techniques. Do you not feel any shame when you speak of this?" Zhao Ruoshi's every word caused Ling Feilong piercing pain. In addition, her elegant and refined complexion gave off an indescribable sense of strength that struck at Ling Feilong's heart. Ling Feilong was speechless as he turned pale from anger. Just as Zhao Ruoshi had said, every class had a fixed number of spots for the recommendation. Only students with results amongst the top 20 in the class were qualified for this recommendation. However,
Ling Fialong had managed to obtain the qualifications to participate in the city's fighting competition after much difficulty. If others were to know that he was a university student without a recommendation, it would be an absolute humiliation. The school had previously considered such reputational problems, as well. Hence, they had made it so that the top 5 contestants of the fighting tournament would receive a recommendation, even if their studies were not good. However, Ling Fialong was only 9th ranked, so naturally, he could not obtain it. Hence, he had suggested such a matter to the school. Seeing that Ling Fialong's results were in the top 30 of the class, not that far from the 20th place, the school had decided to agree to his request. However, the condition was someone had to willingly give up their recommendation. As for how he would get someone to give up their spot, that all depended on Ling Fialong himself. Xueqi was just a weakling. Originally, Ling Fialong had intended to utilize the collective intentions of the class, in addition to his own strength, to easily oppress Xueqi. Then, after giving Xueqi some benefits, this matter would be considered over. However, Xueqi's actions were completely different from what Ling Fialong had imagined they would be. Xueqi had not taken him seriously in the slightest and had threatened him without hesitation. Now, he was even ridiculed by Zhao Ruoshi. Ling Fialong's heart was currently filled with an inextinguishable wrath. Correct, this isn't an equal fight. However, can Xueqi blame others for being weak himself? Who was the one who agreed to this competition? Surely you can't blame me for this. Ling Fialong looked at Zhao Ruoshi with blood-red eyes. If Zhao Ruoshi did not have a beautiful appearance and attractive body, he would have long since sent a slap flying over. However, he endured it. Using force was definitely not a smart move. Moreover, Zhao Ruoshi's family background was not simple at all. If he caused an incident now, his entire life would be over. Also, when Ling Fialong thought about how he could toy with Zhao Ruoshi in the future, the rage in his heart calmed down slightly. Brat, after making me take such a loss, just you wait and see, Ling Fialong glared at Xueqi, silently swearing. Above, in the fighting ring, Xueqi only smiled in disdain when he felt the hostility coming from Ling Fialong. However, he had to agree to one of Ling Fialong's words. This was indeed an uneven fight. In Xueqi's previous life, although his physique was not comparable to those first-rate fighters, he could still beat them into submission. The thing he relied on to win was the life-or-death battles in God's domain. What was a 100-battle hero? After living through 100 wars, it would be hard not to become an expert hero. It was the same with many martial artists. Their training usually involved pushing themselves to the edge, using the feeling of having their lives hanging by a thread to train and improve themselves. However, such a method was too dangerous. The average person would definitely not do such a thing. It was extremely easy to go overboard and lose their lives. After Xueqi went through extremely realistic life-or-death battles, the increase to his battle experience and techniques rapidly grew. His skills in battle even exceeded the national fighting competition standards by several levels. In 10 years' time, any reputable melee player in God's domain could easily defeat the current fighting champion of Jinhai City. Not to mention Xueqi, who was once the captain of Shadow. In Xueqi's eyes, the university's fighting tournament was just like children playing house. Moreover, regarding physique, his current body exceeded his body 10 years later. Fighting would not be a problem, even if he had to face up to 5 or 6 Ling Fialongs. Brat, you sure are carefree to be looking around. Watch how I'll fix you up. Zhou Yuhu said, rushing at Xueqi. He immediately sent a slap towards Xueqi's face, intending to humiliate him first. Naturally, Xueqi could easily see through such an action. However, Xueqi stood unmoving even though he was facing off against someone much stronger than he was. Xueqi sent out a casual punch towards Zhou Yuhu's face, completely ignoring Zhou Yuhu's slap. Zhou Yuhu never imagined that Xueqi's fist would have such precision, aiming directly at his face. Instinctively, Zhou Yuhu had used his hands to block off this fist. Xueqi's lips curled upwards when he saw Zhou Yuhu's actions. With lightning speed, Xueqi's hand chopped towards Zhou Yuhu's neck. Zhou Yuhu failed to react in time as he received a chop to his neck. With the precision of a surgery blade, Xueqi's hand hacked at a major artery in Zhou Yuhu's neck. Suddenly, Zhou Yuhu felt his vision blurring. There was a sense of suffocating as Zhou Yuhu felt all his strength leaving his body. Xueqi did not give Zhou Yuhu time to catch his breath. Immediately, he sent another punch flying towards the side of Zhou Yuhu's abdomen. Zhou Yuhu wanted to block the attack, but his body refused to listen to his thoughts. He could only feel a stabbing pain in his intestines as a stream of yellowish liquid shot out from his mouth. Zhou Yuhu's vision became a blur. He could not cry out, even if he wanted to. Zhou Yuhu's body instinctively wished to fall, but Shi Feng did not give him such a chance. Fist after fist landed on Zhou Yuhu's abdomen, followed by a few more landing on his ribs. After receiving a series of consecutive punches, the acidic juices in Zhou Yuhu's stomach had been completely drained out of his mouth. Then, his body fell to the ground like a dead dog. The entire arena suddenly became silent. Everything had happened all too quickly. It was so quick that not one person had even reacted. Only after Zhou Yuhu was laying on the ground did the judge of the match finally react. Immediately, he declared the end of the fight and Shi Feng, the winner of it. At the same time, he hurriedly ran over to Zhou Yuhu's side to check on him. The judge truly could not imagine it. Zhou Yuhu, the third-ranking student in the university's fighting competition, was not even a match for such a weak-looking youth. By no means was Zhou Yuhu too weak. Instead, the weak-looking youth was just too strong. After watching several of Zhou Yuhu's matches, the judge knew that he was very strong. At the very least, it would not be easy for the judge to deal with him. After looking at Zhou Yuhu's injuries, the judge was dumbfounded. Shi Feng's techniques were just too horrifying. Every one of his moves was perfectly measured, breaking only 2 to 3 of Zhou Yuhu's ribs but not heavily injuring him. Zhou Yuhu only needed more than a month's time for his chest to heal up. Chapter 49. A New Light. Seeing Zhou Yuhu unmoving on the ground, it was clear he had lost consciousness. The teacher then reported that Zhou Yuhu had no major injuries, and he would wake up in a moment. However, his injuries still needed to be tended to. Also, he had to rest for more than a month. As for the city's fighting competition that would be held in 3 weeks, Zhou Yuhu could forget about joining. Everyone's sights shifted toward Shi Feng. They looked at his thin and weak body, sucking in a cold breath when they recalled the explosive and terrifying strength it was capable of displaying. When they thought about the words they said to Shi Feng before, cold sweat started pouring out from their backs without stop. Currently, the expression in the male students' eyes as they looked at Shi Feng had completely changed. There was no longer any ridicule or contempt contained within them. Instead, there was a deep fear. The third-ranking student in the school was actually defeated in a single exchange. Who else could become Shi Feng's opponent? If Shi Feng wished to take care of them, the consequences they would face would be unimaginable. On the other hand, they had actually dared to gift Shi Feng's recommendation to Ling Feilong. Thinking up to this point, the hearts of the hot-blooded warriors from before started to beat madly. Under the Central Brain's witness, Shi Feng received the membership card for the Big Dipper Training Center and 10,000 credits. Following which, he suckled a glance at the people below the ring. When a few of the less courageous male students were met with Shi Feng's deep and profound eyes, their legs suddenly turned weak as they lost consciousness, foam appearing at their mouths. "Teacher, not good. Little Lu has fainted." Before this sentence could finish being said, another male student lay flat on the ground. Meanwhile, the male students that remained standing started becoming scared in their hearts. Shi Feng was just too terrifying. He actually shocked 2 male students into unconsciousness just by looking them in the eye. However, they were also envious of the 2 that lost consciousness. If they had fainted over, they wouldn't have to bear such a pressure right now. Currently, the air surrounding them was still, as if frozen. Breathing was starting to become a difficulty for them, and even their limbs felt heavy as if they were filled with lead. As for the female students in the class, they were all dumbfounded. Their heads quickly lowered when they saw Shi Feng looking over. They felt uncomfortable throughout their bodies as if they were frightened rabbits that were being stared at by a big gray wolf. Qin Shuyu's delicate mouth widened. She rubbed her eyes, verifying what she saw over and over. Only then did she understand that Zhou Yuhu was struck unconscious by Shi Feng. Shi Feng was just too powerful. Why had she never discovered so before? If she could be with a man such as this, her sense of security would be off the charts. Just thinking about it had made her happy. As for money, that would not be a problem. Just based on his strength alone, Shi Feng could definitely get into the city's fighting tournament. Entering into the top 10 would also not be a problem. When that time came, there would definitely be many requests for him to become a celebrity spokesperson. When Qin Shuyu saw that Shi Feng was looking over, she slightly tidied up her clothes and hair, appearing neat and moving. She also revealed deep cleavage, feebly saying, "Brother Feng, it's noon already. I know a good restaurant that has a great environment and good-tasting food. I'll treat you. So let's go there and have a try." However, Shi Feng did not pay Qin Shuyu any attention. Instead, he was looking for Zhao Ruoshi. When he found Zhao Ruoshi, he immediately walked over, completely ignoring Qin Shuyu. Seeing Shi Feng's cold and indifferent eyes, Qin Shuyu suddenly felt she had lost something very important. It was as if a knife stabbing at her heart. She regretted being blind and foolish when she was in high school. "Class monitor, here's your 10,000 credits. I'll repay the remaining 10,000 credits as fast as I can." Shi Feng handed the money over, speaking with a calm smile. However, Zhao Ruoshi would not receive it. She blinked her attractive eyes as she looked at Shi Feng as if she was looking at an exotic animal. There was both shock and joy contained within them. "Are you really Shi Feng?" Zhao Ruoshi asked in a quiet and uncertain tone. Throughout Zhao Ruoshi's 4 years in university, her impression of Shi Feng was one of an introvert. He was often bullied by others. He also appeared very prideful, never receiving help from others. He was like an injured little wolf, licking his own wounds, alone. She had never imagined Shi Feng's actions today would have such a great difference from before. She now viewed Shi Feng in a completely new light. Shi Feng had turned from being a little wolf into a slumbering dragon. He was unassuming when slumbering, but amazing when he took action. Even Zhao Yuhu, the third-ranking student in the entire university, was no match for him. If he had entered the school's fighting tournament, he might have already become the champion by now. "Of course I am Shi Feng. Class monitor, why would you ask such a question? Could it be that I am just too handsome and different from my previous appearance?" Shi Feng joked. He naturally understood Zhao Ruoshi's thoughts. He had attracted too much attention today. However, even Shi Feng himself did not wish for such a situation to occur. The developments up to this point were all unintentional. "TCH, don't get cocky. You are just barely able to enter my eyes." Zhao Ruoshi immediately snatched the money from Shi Feng, her fair and delicate face revealing a calm smile. As if she had thought of something, she quietly said, "The fellowship party hosted by the university is in 10 days. There will also be the upper echelons of well-known corporations in Jinhai City attending the party. Aren't you trying to find a profitable career? This is a good chance, so you should consider attending." The moment Zhao Ruoshi finished speaking, she thought of Shi Feng's financial situation. He definitely did not have the money to attend the party. Hence, she quietly said, "As for the fee required to participate in the fellowship party, I can pay it for you." Shi Feng gave Zhao Ruoshi's words some thought. The fellowship party hosted by Jinhai University annually was a big event, and that person might even participate in this party. Hence, Shi Feng nodded his head in agreement, saying, "Thank you, class monitor. I'll go. As for the participation fee, I'll pay that myself." Zhao Ruoshi was slightly glad when she heard Shi Feng agreeing to go. However, there was an indescribable sense of disappointment when she heard Shi Feng saying that he would pay the participation fee on his own. The conversation between the two was also heard by everyone else. However, everyone doubted their hearing when they heard their class monitor, Zhao Ruoshi, actively invite Shi Feng to the fellowship party. She was even willing to pay for his participation fee. Zhao Ruoshi was a truly beautiful woman. Only, she normally made no efforts to enhance her looks with makeup. Her clothing was also very common. However, it was still unable to mask her elegant and refined face and exquisite body. As long as she dressed herself up somewhat, even the school's top beauty might not be her match. Hence, there were quite a few rich and influential men who tried pursuing Zhao Ruoshi. However, every one of them was rejected. Ling Fialong was the only one who had managed to shorten the distance between them after much difficulty. However, it was only to the degree of getting Zhao Ruoshi to treat him somewhat better. Zhao Ruoshi's pridefulness was clear to behold. Now, however, Zhao Ruoshi had actively invited Shi Feng. It was an absolutely jaw-dropping scene. With such a beauty inviting them, who could refuse? However, Shifeng had tactfully rejected Zhao Ruoshi's kind intentions. By the side, the wrathful flame in Ling Feilong's heart burned madly as he listened in on the two's conversation. Shifeng, one must properly know one's own worth. There will be many great figures of Jinhai City attending the fellowship party. Just based on the clothes you are wearing, the security might even chase you away. At that time, you'll embarrass everyone in our class, Ling Feilong mockingly said. You don't have to worry about this point, fellow student Ling Feilong. Shifeng turned to look at Ling Feilong. He pointed towards the ring, a cold glint flashing past his eyes as he coldly said, On the contrary, didn't you say you wanted to teach me how to become a proper person before? This place is the fighting arena. So why don't we exchange some pointers? Teach me how to become a proper person. Shifeng. You. Don't get ahead of yourself. I am only following the suggestion of the entire class. Ling Feilong stuttered as he looked at Shifeng with hesitant eyes. He suddenly felt chills throughout his body, inadvertently retreating a step back. Having him exchange pointers with Shifeng was just digging his own grave. For those who have never participated in a fighting competition, they would not be able to know the true meaning and horror of the exchange between Shifeng and Zhou Yuhu. Zhou Yuhu was very powerful, and even Ling Feilong himself knew he was definitely not a match to Zhou Yuhu. However, Zhou Yuhu was still dispatched by Shifeng within a moment. This fight could not even be considered a proper fight. It was just a one-sided play. The suggestion of the entire class? Shifeng swept a glance towards his classmates standing to the side, coldly saying, What were your suggestions? Naturally, everyone would not stand on Ling Feilong's side. Even an idiot could tell how afraid Ling Feilong was of Shifeng. Fine, I admit defeat. It was I who was blind. You tell me what's to be done. Ling Feilong looked above the ring at the unconscious Zhou Yuhu, gritting his teeth while saying, If he were to come into conflict with Shifeng right now, he would not have any chance of resisting. He also did not believe that Shifeng would show mercy. If he had continued offending Shifeng, he would definitely be laying on a hospital bed for at least a month. When that time came, he would not be able to even participate in the city's fighting tournament, and such a loss was not something he was willing to bear. The 5,000 credits voucher for the Big Dipper Training Center awarded by the school, Shifeng demanded. The Big Dipper had the best nutritionist in Jinhai City. With this voucher, Shifeng could replenish the nutrients required by his body and quickly improve his physique. Ling Feilong was extremely unwilling to give away the Big Dipper voucher. This was an item that could not be bought outside, even with 10,000 credits. After receiving the voucher, Shifeng left the fighting arena. Shifeng started training his body immediately after returning to his rented apartment. After tiring himself out, he looked for information related to God's domain and Jinhai City on the internet. He was making ample preparations for his future development plan. It was especially true for the fellowship party this time around. He had to prepare sufficient information before the fellowship started. Otherwise, it would be too hard to carry out his plan. When noon came, Shifeng ate his lunch and lay on the bed. He wore his virtual gaming helmet, starting his second day in God's domain. Chapter 50. The Popular Garrison Armor. Dark clouds hovered over the skies of Red Leaf Town, surrounding the full moon that hung in midair. On the streets, magic lamps brightly lit up the town. Shifeng had just logged in. It was still nighttime in God's domain. A majority of the players were currently in the trade area, making the place very crowded. There were only a scant few experts who would hunt for monsters to level up at this time of day. During the daytime, the street of the trade area was desolate. However, that street had currently turned into a bazaar, bustling with noise and excitement. Players could be seen setting up stalls throughout the wide cobblestone street, and above their white sheets of cloth were some items required by auxiliary jobs and also a few pieces of common equipment. Buyers and sellers were bargaining with each other, and some faces even turned crimson over 1 or 2 coppers. System. The Garrison armor you have placed on auction has been sold. After deducting the processing fees, a total of 5 silvers 31 coppers has been added to your inventory. System. The Garrison armor you have placed on auction has been sold. After deducting the processing fees, a total of 5 silvers 67 coppers has been added to your inventory. System. The Garrison armor you have placed on auction has been sold. After deducting the processing fees, a total of 5 silvers 98 coppers has been added to your inventory. Before Xueqi had taken a step forward, a series of auction house notifications from the system entered his ears. Xueqi casually selected the system notifications to appear, immediately becoming shocked. The Garrison armor's value had totally exceeded Xueqi's estimates. Originally, Xueqi intended to have it sold for, more or less, 5 silvers. In reality, however, due to the competition in price growing fiercer, the Garrison armor reached a maximum price of 6 silvers 42 coppers. The 11 Garrison armors sold for a total of over 67 silver coins. The amount immediately turned Xueqi into the owner of a gold coin. He had become a goldenaire. At the current phase of the game, the purchasing power of a single silver coin was astonishing. For a second-rate guild, their circulating funds would only amount to 60 or 70 silver coins. To properly develop their normal members during the initial periods of the game, the guilds were unable to stock up on too many copper coins. Such an action would only hamper the guild's future development. As for first-rate guilds, their circulating funds might only be around 1 gold coin. However, these funds would seem insignificant when it was used on tens or hundreds of people. Now Xueqi was a true tycoon. After a day of battle, a majority of the players were currently returning to town with their spoils of war. These players carried a lot of materials on their persons, and naturally, Xueqi would not let this chance get away. Xueqi casually chose a location with few people, setting his white cloth on the ground and starting up his stall to purchase materials. The highest leveled player right now should be at level 4, whereas the average player was still at level 2 and expert players at level 3. Hence, the materials they sold varied greatly. There were high-ranking goods, and there were also common goods. The current prices for high-ranking materials were very expensive, so Xueqi would naturally not buy them. Xueqi relied solely on himself to make the Garrison armor, so the money he could earn was limited. However, Xueqi was just selling these pieces of equipment to accumulate some funds. Only when he had the funds could he earn more money. Buying magic essence, 6 coppers a stack. Stones, 10 coppers a stack. Also buying hard stones, 23 coppers a stack, Xueqi shouted. After hearing Xueqi's words, the players on the street crowded around him, one after another. Boss, I have 10 stacks of stones. How many stacks do you want? I have 6 stacks of magic essence. Do you want all of them? I have a stack of hard stones. After grinding in the wild for an entire day, magic essences and stones had become materials that polluted the street. Normally, players would sell these materials to NPCs or save them up for practicing their own auxiliary jobs. However, materials such as hard stones were very rare. They were usually found in level 3 areas, only being dropped by kobolds or little rock monsters. There were 20 pieces of hard stones in a stack, and they were worth 20 coppers when sold to NPCs. Hard stones were used in forging. However, it was quite luxurious to use them at this stage of the game. Guilds very rarely purchased hard stones, so their prices were not very high. However, they would have a great purpose once players reached level 7. There were many special monsters in the level 7 monster areas, and it was extremely taxing on the durability of a weapon to fight against these monsters. A weapon would break when its durability reached 0. Once a weapon was broken, the chance of successfully repairing it was only around 20%. If failed, it would turn into scrap. Meanwhile, hard stones could be used to make whetstones. When used on a weapon, it could temporarily increase its damage. More importantly, it could recover a weapon's durability by 5 to 10 points. With the whetstone, players did not have to return to town just to repair their weapons, saving them a lot of time and also increasing their monster grinding efficiency. In Xueqi's previous life, hard stones were sold with extreme popularity. The price of whetstones increased with even greater speed, allowing many forgers to make a hefty profit. To quickly increase their levels and gain an advantage, Shadow Guild had also been butchered by those sharks. They could only grit their teeth as they bought the whetstones. In this life, it was Xueqi's turn to make a huge profit. He was going to stock up these hard stones in advance. After purchasing materials for over an hour, Xueqi had a total of 80 stacks of magic essence and 120 stacks of stones. As for hard stones, Xueqi had only collected 12 stacks of them, a very small amount. Xueqi's bag was quickly filled. He had no choice but to make a trip to the bank's warehouse to store all these items. The bank's warehouse had a fixed space of 500 slots. Expanding the warehouse's space for the first time would give an additional 500 slots at the cost of 20 coppers. The second time was 1,000 slots for 50 coppers. Afterward, every 1,000 slots would cost 1 silver coin, and every additional 1,000 slots would result in a management fee of 10 copper coins per week. Currently, such an amount of money was nothing to Xueqi. Immediately, Xueqi expanded 3,000 slots, and in the future, he would have to pay a processing fee of 30 coppers every week. After storing all the materials, Xueqi ran towards the auction house. The auction house linked together all the small towns under the influence of White River City. Although there were few people who sold common materials here, there would surely still be some people who sold hard stones. Only, the prices they set were slightly higher. However, players would have no choice but to buy whetstones for their weapons when they reached level 7. So, Xueqi wasn't concerned about the loss of money. After arriving at the auction house, Xueqi discovered a very peculiar situation. There were quite a lot of logistics members of guilds present at the auction house. Each and every one of them were standing guard at the auction house, and it was a wonder what they were actually waiting for. Xueqi randomly chose a place to sit down, calling out the operating panel of the auction house. Just when Xueqi was searching for hard stones, he heard a few logistics members of guilds complaining to each other. How long more do we have to wait? Why is that Garrison armor still not showing up? Let me buy it so I can report back. You've only waited for 3 hours. I've already been waiting here for more than 10 hours. You haven't seen the intensity of the competition for the Garrison armor. I've heard, because of this Garrison armor, there were quite a few guilds who were able to kill many wild special elites, reaping astonishing gains. There was even a guild that managed to obtain quite a few pieces of equipment and skill books, thanks to the Garrison armor. So, everyone is here to fight over it. Unfortunately, the remaining few pieces of Garrison armor have all been bought. Exactly. Our guild is currently regretting it dearly. If we had known how greatly we would fall behind to those guilds, we would have bought the Garrison armor, even if we had to pay 7 silver coins for one. Now, the higher-ups have already given the order. As long as the Garrison armor appears, we definitely must buy it. During the discussion held by the logistic members, Xueqi was also surprised by the speed of the Garrison armor achieving his desired effect. Hence, Xueqi took out the remaining 7 Garrison armor that possessed defensive power. He stealthily placed them on auction, setting the base price for each piece at 8 silver coins. 2 silver coins higher than his original estimation. However, these guilds should be able to accept such a price. As for the best Garrison heavy armor, Xueqi would only sell it after a period of time has passed. He would first let these guilds slowly digest the current Garrison armor. After placing the equipment on auction, Xueqi started searching for hard stones. Xueqi wondered if there were many players who had auctioned them off. Chapter 51. Competition at the Auction House. Xueqi called out the search panel, immediately entering the words hard stones. Suddenly, rows of information appeared on the semi-transparent screen. In a single glance, Xueqi could see over 100 stacks of hard stones being sold. There were many players selling them. When Xueqi saw a stack of hard stones selling for 1 gold coin, he felt such a player must have been driven insane by poverty. Immediately, Xueqi filtered the display to show prices from lowest to highest. After adjusting the display, the cheapest stack of hard stones still cost 26 coppers. After deducting the processing fees of the auction house, players could still receive 25 coppers. As expected, the prices were a lot higher than normal. However, Xueqi still had to buy them. He could afford them as long as the price was below 30 coppers. Suddenly, the number of hard stones available on the auction house had been reduced by a large half. The remaining ones were all selling for 30 coppers and above, and there was no spendthrift who would buy them. After looking at hard stones, Xueqi casually took at the miscellaneous section. Xueqi's eyes abruptly shone. There were actually card sets. Moreover, there was a large number of them. There was some chance for monsters to drop these card sets. However, the drop rate for it was extremely low. There was not even a 10,000 to 1 chance for one to drop. Monsters below level 10 were able to drop 12 card sets, and they were divided into 2 ranks: Bronze rank and Mysterious Iron rank. Warriors had Steel, Crusaders, and Insanity. Weapon specialists had Chaos, Vengeance, and Hurricane. Healers had Divine, Nature, and Noble. Mages had Element, Fool, and Demon. These 12 card sets each represented the 12 different jobs. Every set had 9 cards in them, and each card had a number behind them. As long as a player could gather a complete set, they could exchange it for a piece of set equipment for the respective job. Back in those days, a majority of the players did not know what these card sets were for. Moreover, there was no introduction for these card sets. Players at that time simply kept these card sets in their bags or sold them at the auction house. Only when the normal mode of the 50-man level 10 dungeon near the city was cleared, did these players discover there was actually an NPC that would trade for these card sets. Depending on the rank of the card sets, they could be traded for either bronze or mysterious iron set equipment. These set equipment were absolutely marvelous. A bronze set of equipment could rival an entire regular set of mysterious iron equipment, whereas a mysterious iron set of equipment could rival an entire regular set of secret silver equipment. So, these card sets that nobody cared about before suddenly turned ragingly popular overnight. Every card was sold at an astronomical price. Even so, many guilds were still frantic over them, constantly purchasing them. Meanwhile, there were hundreds of card sets currently displayed in front of Xueqi, yet there was actually nobody who wanted them. Each card was being sold at no more than 5 coppers, and even the maximum was 7 coppers. Xueqi bought them clean without hesitation. Xueqi did not think much of the cost. What's more, they would not increase in value even if he had left them in his bag. Using the money to grow money, now that was the way of the king. After Xueqi was finished with collecting hard stones and card sets, he was left with no more than 14 silver coins. Following which, Xueqi searched for skill books through the search panel. To determine a player's strength in God's domain, other than looking at their equipment, the number of skills they had learned was another factor. If a player possessed many skills, they could have a large variety of attack patterns to use in battle. An expert swordsman could usually utilize more than 20 skills in battle, whereas first-rate experts could use more than 40 skills in battle. As for the top-tier experts, they did not need to be mentioned. Xueqi was a first-rate expert, yet, he possessed less than 10 skills. His condition was truly pathetic. However, there were very few skill books currently being sold. Under normal circumstances, players would usually use skill books on themselves or trade them for a skill they were able to use. Xueqi went through more than 10 pages in one go. As long as he saw a skill usable by swordsmen, he immediately bought them. When Xueqi arrived at the final page, his mind turned blank. Are you kidding me? Even defensive blade is being sold? Xueqi went wild with joy. The defensive blade was a swordsman's powerhouse skill. It was also a sure kill skill when dealing with mages. However, the skill also had a damnable drop rate. Even in his previous life, Xueqi only managed to get his hands on the skill after he was well over level 40. Xueqi truly did not imagine he would be able to see it now. Although the selling price was slightly high, 6 silvers was still acceptable to Xueqi. Xueqi immediately placed a bid of 7 silver coins, not wanting to waste too much time. Very quickly, Xueqi bought the skill for 7 silver coins. With the current purchasing power of 7 silver coins, Xueqi could buy 5 to 6 basic skill books. However, Xueqi spent them all on defensive blade without batting an eyelid. In addition to buying the rare skill defensive blade, Xueqi also purchased 3 common skills: Observing Eyes, Windwalk, and Earth Splitter. On another note, while Xueqi was joyous over his purchase, the situation at the auction house started turning frantic. The logistic members of the various guilds were all crimson to their ears, their rage soaring to the skies. Crap, 9 silver coins still isn't enough to get this equipment. Which rich guild is it that paid 10 silver coins? You animals, why don't you take a look at my side? Someone's already bid 10 silvers and 65 coppers. These people are absolutely insane. I've only brought 10 silver coins with me. What should I do now that I can't complete my task? Abominable. They're hiding their names and placing only these few pieces of equipment on auction. How can I even snatch one? These people were the logistics members of unrated guilds. They were on the brink of insanity when they saw the larger guilds bid, each higher than the other. The most abominable person, however, was the creator of the equipment. Every time, this person only auctioned a few pieces of equipment. Previously, the competition over the equipment was already sufficiently intense. However, the Garrison armor being auctioned right now had even better attributes, and their numbers were even less. The money they brought along to bid was absolutely insufficient. So how were they going to fight for the equipment? It can't be, right? Are there that many tycoons? Someone actually bid 11 silvers. Shifeng's joy reached the tips of his brows when he looked at how the Garrison armor's price continuously increased. Within moments, the money he spent before had all been recovered, to the extent that it was more than before. Suddenly, Shifeng thought of the defensive blade. The average player definitely had no chance of obtaining such a rare skill for swordsmen, whereas guilds would not sell it, even if they obtained it. The skill must have been sold by a certain guild to collect funds to buy the Garrison armor. It's just that their actions once again benefited Shifeng. Within moments, all 7 Garrison armors had their prices increased past 11 silvers. Such a price shocked even Shifeng himself. Where did so many powerful guilds suddenly come from? With the financial resources of such guilds, they ought to not spend that much money on a piece of bronze equipment. However, what Shifeng did not know was, after he had placed the Garrison armors on auction, the logistics members of various large guilds reported the situation back to their guild leaders. Previously, these guild leaders saw the MT of other guilds tanking special elites with the Garrison armor. These MTs were able to allow the other players to attack the special elites with ease, obtaining various skill books and bronze equipment, mysterious iron equipment even. At such a sight, the eyes of these guild leaders had long since turned red with envy. Unfortunately, they had no solutions to this matter. They wished to let the lifestyle players of their own respective guilds forge this equipment, yet they did not have the forging design for it. They also wished to contact the player who had forged these Garrison armors, yet this player had hidden his name, preventing any means of contact. Their only choice was to watch on, helplessly. Now, however, the Garrison armor, this time, even possessed defensive power. They definitely must buy it. Hence, these guilds started gathering funds immediately. Do you hear me? You definitely must get it. Immediately bid 13 silver coins. I want to see who else dares to bid. What? Is it already at 13 silvers? Bid 13 silvers 50 coppers. I don't believe there is a guild that is wealthier than us. There were over 100 towns under the influence of White River City, and there were hundreds of guilds continuously bidding for the Garrison armor. After half an hour, all 7 Garrison armors were auctioned off, with the lowest being sold at 14 silver 60 coppers. Shifeng earned more than 1 gold coin in an instant. Seeing how fervent these people were, Shifeng took the chance to place the Garrison heavy armor on auction, setting its starting price at 16 silver coins. Following which, Shifeng left the auction house. It was still night, and there was about half an hour before sunrise. It was very unwise to go out and level right now, so Shifeng went to the library in Red Leaf Town first. He wanted to have a better understanding of the diary, which contained Elvish words he obtained from the hell mode of the Deathly Forest. He might even obtain a new find. Chapter 52. Holy Sister. The journey to Red Leaf Town's library was very dangerous. If a normal player went there, there was a 30% chance for that person to die once. As for the remaining 70%, he would die many times. Hence, before heading to the library, Shifeng stored all the hard stones and the Philosopher's Stone into the bank. The Philosopher's Stone would drop after death. If Shifeng had unexpectedly died on the way to the library, then it would be a major loss. Following which, Shifeng took out the 4 skill books he bought previously and chose to learn them. Observing eyes. Able to see clearly unknown and concealed targets. There is a fixed chance to detect target's weak point. Cooldown. 40 seconds. Wind walk. The user is wrapped in wind. Movement speed increased by 30%. There is a 50% chance to avoid damage from ranged attacks. Duration of 10 seconds. Cooldown. 2 minutes. Earth Splitter. Requires sword. Causes 30 base damage to target after use, and based on the period of charging power between 0.2 seconds to 3 seconds, a maximum of 300% weapon damage can be increased. Attack range of 8 yards. Cooldown. 1 minute. Defensive blade. Requires
Sword. Normal attacks range increased by 10 yards after use. Able to block up to a maximum of 6 ranged attacks or 3 melee attacks. Duration of 25 seconds. Cooldown. 3 minutes. With these new skills, Xueqi's survivability and attack potential greatly increased. Thus, the danger of him going to the library was no longer great. Red Leaf Town's library was distanced far from the trade area. It was located in Red Leaf Town's slums. The slums were the second most popular location after the trade area. There were all sorts of people there, and it was a place where crooks mixed with the honest folk. It was also the favorite visiting location of some players, and this was due to the slum's alternative name. Paradise of the Fallen. The moment Xueqi entered the domain of this paradise, from the corners of the street, he discovered eyes filled with greed directed at him. These were the rats hidden in the darkness, the ones unaccepted by the light, and the wanderers of hell's boundaries. There was bound to be a portion of players in God's domain that was different from ordinary person. They were neither interested in conquering dungeons, nor were they interested in the excitement that came from adventuring and risking one's self. The only thing these players were interested in was banditry. They would kill other players and plunder their equipment. Then they would sell it to others for a high price, making a bountiful amount of money. During daytime, these players would hunt for and plunder the players with good equipment. At night, they would return to the slums to dispose of their stolen goods, then party with the money they just earned. They would brag about their harvest to display their own strength, using the chance to elevate their position in the slums. Ordinary players would never set foot in this place. If they did not possess sufficient strength, the only result would be a return via death. The reason being this location was not protected by the guards. Xueqi simply glanced at the players hidden at the corners of the street. He discovered the indicators for all of these players were colored red. It was clear to see that they had done many kill and plunder deeds. Within God's domain, red players were not allowed to enter guarded areas. The equipment drop rate upon death for these players were also increased, and the penalty for death may be increased up to a maximum of 300%. Moreover, they would be apprehended and jailed by the guards if they were to enter guarded areas, and the duration they were jailed depended on their crime value. However, even with all these disadvantages, there were still many players who had chosen to go down this path. After all, the rewards came very quickly this way. Red players also had a place they could stay in Red Leaf Town. For example, the slums. Moreover, if one wished to receive a good quest in the slums, one had to be a yellow player or even a red player. Regarding these players who lived on the edge of a knife, Xueqi paid no attention to them. He immediately headed towards the main road of the slums. On both sides of the street, there were quite a few flirty ladies dressed in revealing clothes. When they noticed the clothing Xueqi was dressed in, they started flinging coquettish glances at his direction. They wanted to spend a pleasant night with Xueqi, earning some coin along the way. Little brother, are you here for some fun? Come over here to Big Sister. Big Sister guarantees that you will have a pleasant night. An alluring lady dressed in vibrant red leather clothing blocked Xueqi's way. Xueqi immediately used observing eyes. Charlene, elite rank. Level 8. HP 1200/1200. Ha ha ha, Charlene, you're trying to sneak a bite again. How can you not invite us to such a happy occasion? A group of robust and fiendish men walked over, each of them carrying a cold grin on their faces. Is this a robbery? Xueqi took a look at his surroundings, calmly asking. He discovered himself already surrounded by NPCs. There were also a few red players by the corner of a broken house, sneers on their faces. In God's domain, it was very common for players to be robbed by NPCs. Moreover, it was also not Xueqi's first time being robbed by NPCs. The incident that left the deepest impression on him was when he was at Creation Mountain Range. It was there that he was robbed by an NPC warlord. At that time, Xueqi could only helplessly pay out a road toll. Currently before him, there was a level 8 elite NPC in addition to a group of level 7 common NPCs. It was a scene very commonly to the slums, but Xueqi had nobody to blame but himself for coming to this place. Brat, since you look like an upright person, we won't trouble you too much. Hand out 5 silver coins, and we'll let you pass. Otherwise, we'll personally take action, a scarred man said with a sneer. Then come over here and get it, Xueqi sneered as he pulled out the abyssal blade. If you were to pay the road toll, then congratulations. Not only would you lose your money,
But you also had to lose your life. You would lose at least a piece of equipment that was on your person. This was the reason why normal players had a 30% chance of dying once in the slums. If you wanted these NPCs that wandered the boundaries of darkness to uphold their promise, there was definitely something broken with your brain. Charlene's attractive face revealed a trace of malevolence. Brat, you are courting death. A level 7 blade-wielding man rushed at Xueqi. Xueqi stabbed the abyssal blade towards the man without hesitation. Double chop, chop, thundering flash, earth splitter. Sword slash after sword slash pierced through the man's neck and heart. With a body fully geared with bronze equipment, combined with the abyssal blade's attack power, Xueqi's attacks had immediately reduced the man's 750 HP down to 0. Still want to continue? Xueqi glanced at the surrounding NPCs, sneering. The NPCs were all shocked by Xueqi. They all parted and gave way to Xueqi, one after another. Meanwhile, the players hiding in a corner were also shocked. Xueqi had killed off a level 7 NPC in just a few moves. This player was just too strong. Naturally, these players would not find trouble with a player whom they knew was strong. In the slums, strength was everything. Stealthily, these players left the scene of the incident. Only Charlene stayed behind with an interested expression. Little brother, you are really powerful. You've made Big Sister truly admire you. I wonder where you are headed? Big Sister can guide you there and save you a lot of trouble, whereas you only have to pay a very small price. Charlene walked toward Xueqi, offering with a calm smile. No need to trouble yourself. I'm familiar with the way to the library. Xueqi did not wish to get entangled with these NPCs. He only wished to search for clues regarding the Elven diary. Charlene smiled with even more joy when she heard Xueqi decline. I am the librarian. Charlene. You can ask me matters regarding the library. There is no one more familiar with it than myself. Charlene puffed out her prided twin peaks, smiling sweetly. Isn't Red Leaf Town's librarian a holy sister? Xueqi did not believe her. Oh, are you talking about this? Charlene took out a set of nun's clothing and changed into it within an instant. Suddenly, her wild demeanor completely vanished. She was like an angel that had descended to the world, incomparably divine. Her presence made others desire repentance before her. At the same time, the information that Charlene displayed had changed. Holy Sister Charlene, Divine Official. Level 20. HP 10, 000/10, 000. Xueqi was also shocked. What kind of situation was this? Even NPCs had a side job? Chapter 53. Darkness Descends. Xueqi was still slightly unable to accept Charlene's makeover. However, Xueqi could be considered lucky for being able to meet the rumored librarian. According to the information he knew, the librarian of Red Leaf Town was full of mystery, her whereabouts unknown. Xueqi never imagined the librarian to be the female NPC who participated in a robbery against him. If Xueqi had truly started a fight with Charlene just now, the consequences would be unimaginable. What did playing the pig to eat the tiger mean? Charlene was definitely a veteran in this field. Divine Official was the Tier 3 job advancement for an oracle. In the case of swordsman, it was called Sword King, whereas between these two was the Swordmaster. Even if a Divine Official was only level 20, she could still easily dispatch a level 50 lord. Perhaps, Charlene was the most powerful NPC in all of Red Leaf Town. Hee. Do you believe me now? Charlene giggled at Xueqi. Her entire body radiated a golden glow as if she were the reincarnation of Mother Mary. Since you have some business with me, let's talk about it at the library. System. Player has activated the epic quest, Darkness Descends. Contents unknown. Xueqi stumbled suddenly when he heard the system notification, nearly falling. What was the reason for him to actually trigger this epic quest? Darkness Descends was the famous epic quest of God's domain. From the information he collected from the internet and Shadow, the difficulty for completing this epic quest was truly unimaginable. Of course, the rewards were also unimaginably bountiful. In Xueqi's previous life, the person who completed this epic quest was the Spirit Emperor, Fantasy Extinguisher. He was a legendary character amongst summoners. He was globally ranked within the top 20 summoners and top 500 in the entire game during the peak of God's Domain. Although he was only ranked within the top 500 within God's Domain, it should not be looked down upon. The entire world had a total population of 100 billion. Although there were only 100 million players in God's Domain currently, this number would increase past 10 billion in a year. In 3 years, the number of players playing God's Domain would go past 30 billion. Being able to rank within the top 500, Fantasy Extinguisher was definitely an amazing expert. However, the thing that made Xueqi feel odd was why this epic quest was found here. Fantasy Extinguisher's starting location was not in Star Moon Kingdom. Instead, it was in Black Dragon Empire, which was far from Star Moon Kingdom. Black Dragon Empire was far more powerful than Star Moon Kingdom. Its landmass was 3 times that of Star Moon Kingdom's. The competition between players and guilds there was much fiercer. Could it be a reward for getting the first clear on the hell mode of a dungeon? Xueqi silently guessed as he followed Charlene. He felt it was a great possibility. Otherwise, why would an epic quest that should be found in Black Dragon Empire be found here in Star Moon Kingdom? At this moment, Xueqi's system communication rang. Xueqi took a look at the caller, learning it was Gentle Snow contacting him. "Miss Snow, do you have business with me?" "Seeing that you're logged on, I have something to tell you." Gentle Snow spoke in a very indifferent tone. She was like mysterious ice, unchanging even after 10,000 years and had no interest towards anything at all. "I'm in need of money to purchase something, so I might need more time to return the 15 silvers that I owe you. At the latest, I will return it to you by the end of today." "All right. If you are really in a bind, tomorrow is fine as well," Xueqi calmly replied. He no longer paid any heed to the 15 silver coins Gentle Snow owed him. Currently, he had more than 1 gold coin on his person, and he was troubled over how to spend it. Gentle Snow was slightly surprised by Xueqi's indifference even toward that much money. However, since Xueqi had already said so, naturally, she would not be courteous to him. She softly thanked him saying, "Thank you. However, aren't you afraid I won't return it, causing you to lose everything? You are the snow goddess. Why would you even try to cheat an average player of such a small amount of money?" Xueqi said with a grin. "Average? You dare call yourself average? Even I am shocked by the map and strategy you provided. We only spent an hour to clear the normal mode of the Deathly Forest, then went on to clear hard mode as well. Unfortunately, hell mode is just too hard. We could not clear it no matter what." Gentle Snow faintly smiled, saying, "I am very curious as to how you all managed to clear hell mode. If you said it was due to your party members' help, I would not believe you." To conquer the hell mode of the Deathly Forest, she especially rushed over elite members of Ouroboros from other towns. However, they couldn't get past the first chieftain rank boss, Willy, no matter what they did. Willy's damage was especially terrifying. Even a shield warrior fully equipped with bronze equipment could not tank it. Gentle Snow truly could not understand how Xueqi's party had cleared hell mode. "Just lucky," Xueqi honestly said. "Since you don't want to say it, I still have to fight over a piece of equipment. So, I won't speak with you any longer. Don't forget our dungeon appointment." Gentle Snow did not continue pursuing Xueqi about how he was able to clear hell mode. Just hard mode alone gave them a great harvest. "Fight over equipment? Is it the Garrison heavy armor?" Xueqi casually asked. "And how did you know? Are you also fighting for this equipment?" Gentle Snow nodded her head while saying, "The attributes for this Garrison heavy armor was too great. If they had this piece of equipment, there would not be much trouble when they entered the level 3 Wolfman dungeon." Xueqi knew he had said too much, but he remained calm as he replied, "Yes, but I didn't think there would be that many people competing for it. I've already given up on it by now." "Indeed. The price has already reached 23 silver coins, and only a guild with strong funding will be able to buy it. I won't speak with you any longer. I still need to sell some items." Gentle Snow disconnected the call after finishing her piece. Meanwhile, Zhao Yueru, who sat beside Gentle Snow, pouted her delicate lips. She kicked up a fuss, complaining, "Snow, why must you let that bastard join our team, no matter what? That bastard was just lucky, and his skills are just average. He coincidentally encountered a small dungeon like the Deathly Forest that did not change much since the game's official release, and he very luckily cleared the hell mode of the dungeon. It would be pointless bringing him into the 20-man team dungeon. Also, the skill levels of his party members are just too miserable to even look at. They would definitely become a burden to our progress. The elite members of Ouroboros standing behind Gentle Snow also agreed with Zhao Yueru's words. They were the elites of Ouroboros. How could a group of average players compare to them? I feel that Big Brother Yifeng is not that simple. He was definitely humble when he said he cleared the dungeon due to luck. His skills are amazing, so it wouldn't be disadvantageous inviting him to join us. Zhao Yueru softly offered her personal opinion. Little girl, what do you know about liars? You just don't know how bad that bastard is. Also, he spent that much time just reaching level 1. His skills are only... This lady can insta-kill him with a single flame explosion. Zhao Yueru gave Zhao Yueru a stare, speaking confidently. Alright, stop arguing. I too feel Yifeng is not that simple. Otherwise, how could he clear the hell mode of the Deathly Forest with a group of novices? When we enter the team dungeon, we will see where his standards lay. If he is not bad, I might consider recruiting him into the God-slaying army. Now, however, let's first bid on this Garrison heavy armor. Gentle Snow let out a soft cough. Everyone abruptly became silent. Astonished. They never imagined that Gentle Snow would have such considerations. She was actually planning to let Yifeng join the God-slaying army. The members of the God-slaying army were the elites amongst the elites of Ouroboros. Each member had great skill, and they were experts who were selected out of tens of thousands of players. All of the guild's resources were prioritized on the God-slaying army. Aside from the guild leader and sub-leader, members of the God-slaying army had the most authority within the guild. Many experts in the virtual world struggled tirelessly to join the God-slaying army. However, a large majority of these people were all rejected. On the other hand, Yifeng, who suddenly appeared before them, actually possessed a very great chance of entering the God-slaying army, and such a sight had caused great envy within them. Chapter 54, Bible of Darkness. When Gentle Snow disconnected the call, Xueqi let out a breath of relief. Fortunately, he was not discovered. If Gentle Snow found out that Xueqi was the creator of the Garrison armor, terrifying consequences might have occurred. Also, Xueqi did not doubt the possibility of Gentle Snow utilizing a forceful approach. The Snow Goddess was not an empty title. Her Iron Fist methods have tongue-tied countless experts. Otherwise, she would not have been able to take care of so many experts. However, Xueqi discovered an interesting matter from Gentle Snow's words. The many guilds in White River City have already started attaching great importance towards the Garrison armor. This meant the reputation of the Garrison armor had already spread. Currently, the Garrison armor's popularity might have reached its peak. It was a great chance for Xueqi to sell the Garrison armor in large quantities, earning a ton of money. After another period had passed, the Garrison armor's worth would not be as great as it was now. Let's first take a look at the epic quest. Then I'll return to making the Garrison armors. Xueqi impatiently wanted to return to making Garrison armors now that a chance for him to make a lot of money had arrived. However, the epic quest currently before him was much more important. If he gave it up part way, he would definitely regret it for the rest of his life. This epic quest played a big role in allowing Fantasy Extinguisher a legendary achievement. Naturally, Xueqi would not let go of this chance meeting. After spending 20 minutes maneuvering along the narrow pathways of the slum area, Xueqi finally arrived at the library. On his way here, Xueqi discovered the wonder of having a divine official walking by his side in the slums. The NPCs who intended to rob him all backed away accordingly after seeing Charlin's attire. Otherwise, Xueqi would have needed to spend over an hour for this trip, continuously battling against these sewer rats. Moreover, these NPCs were literally dirt poor. Xueqi would not obtain any rewards for killing these NPCs, not even EXP. The library of Red Leaf Town had a withered appearance. The building only had 2 floors to it, and there was nobody present to manage it as dead leaves could be seen climbing the walls. Entering the library, dust and dirt covered the entire building. The books laying on the wooden table had long since been parceled up by a layer of dust. The library looked more like a haunted house than a place in which people once lived. Apologies. It has been a long time since anybody has visited, so I haven't been tidying up the place. Just sit wherever you want, Charlene faintly smiled as she pointed towards a dust-covered chair, not understanding that her action was very inappropriate. Revered divine official, I have come here because I wish to have this diary translated, Xueqi said, getting straight towards the point. His eyebrows slightly wrinkled when he looked towards the finger-thick layer of dust covering the chair. He truly did not wish to dirty his clothes. However, Charlene remained minding her own business as she searched for something on the bookshelf. It was like she did not hear Xueqi speak at all. Xueqi was long used to such behaviors, so he chose to remain silent. There were all sorts of NPCs in God's domain. It was especially true for important NPCs. Unique and bizarre behaviors were considered small matters. There were well-known NPCs that were much more damnable. These NPCs caused many first-rate guilds to curse their mothers. After waiting for 10 whole minutes, Charlene finally came out from the pile of bookshelves. In her hands, she held a thick and tattered old book. I know why you are here. The moment you've set foot in the slums, I could sense the evil energy coming from your body, Charlene said gravely. She placed the tattered book on the table, causing all the dust in the building to abruptly soar. Let me have a look at the item. Xueqi naturally knew the diary triggered such a scenario. He took out the tattered diary from his bag, carefully passing it to Charlene. Charlene was not in a hurry to receive the diary. Instead, she chanted out a phrase of divine words. Suddenly, streaks of golden divine words wrapped around the diary. Just when Xueqi was wondering about Charlene's actions, a change suddenly came over the diary. Black smoke suddenly appeared on its pitch-black cover, and a sinister-looking face came into view. It looked as if it was in extreme pain. Evil be gone! Divine spear! Charlene shouted, her jade-like hand drawing out divine words in midair. At the same time, she started singing out a Tier 3 divine curse, her voice echoing throughout the entire library. A golden-colored hexagram appeared above the library, covering the entire building, and from the magic formation, 3 golden spears of judgment came flying out. The spears pierced the diary, tearing apart the sinister face. Ha ha ha, I won't give up. We will meet again. The sinister face loudly laughed as it spoke the bone-chilling words. Both of its eyes were firmly affixed toward Xueqi as if the words it spoke were meant for him. Within a moment, the black smoke above the diary dispersed. Meanwhile, Charlene's forehead was covered in sweat. Her complexion was deathly pale, and she currently looked extremely weak. System. You have been cursed by a great demon. All attributes reduced by 50%. Experience received from killing monsters reduced by 95%. System. You have been eyed by a great demon. The phantom of the great demon will come for you in 30 days. If you are killed by the phantom, your body will be taken over by the great demon. Crap. Make it more ruthless, why don't you? Regardless of how self-restrained he had been, Xueqi could not help but curse when he saw this notification. When compared to human standards, a great demon was the equivalent of a Tier 4 job. It was on the same level as a sword emperor. Although it was just a phantom, it would still require Charlene, who had a Tier 3 job, to handle it. However, instead of aiming for Charlene, the great demon actually went for a bystander and a minor character like Xueqi. With this curse around, how would he be able to level up? Not to mention the 50% reduction in attributes. It had caused his attributes to sink down to the level of an average player. It would be a problem if he wanted to kill monsters of a higher level. He also had to face the phantom of the great demon. Miss Charlene, are you all right? Although he was cursed, Xueqi still spoke politely. Charlene shook her head slightly, speaking with a smile. Nothing too bad. I never imagined that you would actually bring such a terrifying item. You've weakened me quite a bit. However, the problem has been resolved now. If you had dragged on for a few more days, your body might have been possessed by the great demon, and your body would suffer in hell for all eternity. Thank you, Miss Charlene. If it weren't for you, I might have already been dead. Although Charlene's words felt somewhat wrong, Xueqi had still thanked her. He rejoiced at the fact that he had come to the library without delay. Otherwise, he would truly be finished. However, the problem right now had yet to be resolved. No need for thanks. This diary is not as simple as it seems. It is a key. In it records the method to unlock the curse on a gate. Your job now is to find this gate, enter through it with this diary, and find the Bible of Darkness that is kept within. I can destroy the Bible of Darkness as long as you retrieve it for me. Once it is destroyed, the great demon would not be able to descend, Charlene explained. System: Epic Quest, Darkness Descends, accepted. Find and destroy the Bible of Darkness and prevent the great demon from descending. Rewards unknown. Although Xueqi had known about the extreme difficulty of completing an epic quest, there was still no need for it to be so damnable. At the very least, the quest should tell him where to find the Bible of Darkness. In Xueqi's previous life, Fantasy Extinguisher had completed this quest in Black Dragon Empire. However, Xueqi couldn't just go to Black Dragon Empire. Even if he went there, the teleportation gates had not been activated at this stage of the game, so he would have to run there. However, even if he ran till his legs broke, he would still need to waste several months before he could reach the borders of Black Dragon Empire. Chapter 55. Moon Drip. Xueqi entered deep thought. He did not understand how Fantasy Extinguisher completed this epic quest in his previous life. Who the heck would know where the Bible of Darkness was stored? Moreover, in his previous life, the information Xueqi collected regarding this quest was very incomplete, so the parts he could use as reference were extremely limited. Currently, the evil curse Xueqi was shouldering even made leveling a problem. No matter what, he had to think of a solution to this problem. Otherwise, the problems he would face in the future would be even greater. Esteemed Miss Charlene, I am now cursed by the demon. Do you have any methods to resolve it? Xueqi calmed his heart. He turned to look at Charlene, who was currently in a delicate state, asking, also, where can I find the Bible of Darkness? Even just a clue is helpful. Hearing Xueqi's series of questions, a bright smile appeared on Charlene's pure countenance. You sure have a lot of questions, huh, you little bastard? It's not like I don't have a method to resolve your curse. However, you should know to get something you have to give something in return. There is only one way to dispel the curse, and that is to carry out a moon drip. The moon drip is a ceremony that can dispel all magic and curses in the world. However, many materials are required to carry out this ceremony. I will provide the materials required, but in return, you have to pay 3 gold coins as remuneration for my services. If you wish to obtain a clue to the Bible of Darkness, you have to pay an additional 10 gold coins as an information fee. Xueqi felt a chill going down his spine as he looked at Charlene's expression, which became more excited the more she explained. It was especially true for Charlene's eyes. Even if she looked incomparably pure right now, her appearance was still not enough to hide the burning desire within her eyes. In the end, one word still dictated everything. Money. System: Do you wish to accept the quest to dispel the curse? Esteemed Miss Charlene, I am willing to pay the remunerations. What else could he have said? However, Charlene's asking price of 3 gold coins was just too high. There was not a single player in White River City who could afford such an amount right now. Since you are willing, then pay a deposit of 1 gold coin. Charlene stretched out her delicate hand without restraint. Seeing Charlene's actions, Xueqi suspected that she had some sort of X-ray technique. However, he had to pay the money sooner or later, so Xueqi reluctantly handed over 1 gold coin to Charlene. The moment Xueqi had handed over the money, he went from being a wealthy tycoon to being a poor peasant. Here, this is for you. You need to fill the energy within this thing first. It will lead you to the Moonlight Forest to collect 30 pieces of moonstone. It's fine if you just bring them back to me. Charlene took the shining gold coin with lightning speed, then took out a fist-sized crystal orb and passed it to Xueqi. System: Quest Moon Drip accepted. You must collect 30 pieces of moonstone and 2 gold coins for Charlene. Upon completion, Charlene will dispel the evil curse of the great demon on you. Xueqi received the crystal orb and took a look at it. Teleportation Magic Orb. Able to teleport the user to and from the Moonlight Forest immediately after activation. Activation condition: 200,000 EXP needed to be stored. 200,000 experience points were enough to let the average player rise from level 0 to level 7 within an instant. To Xueqi right now, such an amount was asking for his life. Currently, the experience he obtained from killing monsters would be reduced by 95%. He would obtain absolutely no experience from killing monsters of the same level. As for elites, he would just be able to obtain around 10 EXP for killing one that was a level higher. That meant he would have to kill 20,000 elites that were one level higher than him to collect 200,000 EXP. How long would it take for him to kill that many? Moreover, there weren't even that many elite monsters in Red Leaf Town. It really is worthy of being called an epic quest? The difficulty is truly insane, Shifeng bitterly laughed. In Shifeng's previous life, Fantasy Extinguisher had the support of the first-rate guild, Fantasy Shrine. So, he was able to complete the quest after much difficulty. However, Shifeng did not have the support of a first-rate guild. It would be extremely difficult if he wanted to complete the quest. However, as long as Shifeng completed it, the rewards would easily outshine the troubles. The rewards for this epic quest resulted in Fantasy Extinguisher's fame. Although Shifeng did not have a first-rate guild supporting him, he was a reincarnated person. He still had quite an advantage over the other players. At the very least, he would not lose out to the first-rate guilds regarding earning money. It looks like I can only return and forge Garrison armors for now. Shifeng kept the crystal orb and left the library. He planned to first earn enough gold coins before thinking of a way to store up 200,000 EXP. The sky outside was already bright by the time Shifeng returned to the trade area. Many players already left to kill monsters and level up, emptying the streets by quite a bit. Shifeng immediately went to the bank to retrieve the forging materials and the Philosopher's Stone. Just when Shifeng was headed to the Forging Association, a notification came from the system. System: the Garrison heavy armor you have placed on auction has been sold. After deducting the processing fees, a total of 31 silvers 53 coppers have been added to your bag space. Is it worth that much? Shifeng was shocked. The level 3 Garrison heavy armor was just a piece of equipment that had similar attributes to a mysterious iron equipment. At most, it was worth 20 silver coins. Now, however, it had been sold for over 30 silver coins. One could just imagine how frantic these guilds were towards the Garrison heavy armor. Shifeng's enthusiasm was further boosted with the arrival of this information. He could not help but wish he could immediately forge 100 pieces of Garrison armor, selling them and making a big profit. Hence, Shifeng activated Windwalk as he rushed towards the Forging Association. Without hesitation, Shifeng reserved an intermediate forging room for 20 hours. If he did not reap the money of those guilds right now, he would not be doing justice towards his own reincarnation. Inside the forging room, Shifeng refined all the stone he collected, going all out as he forged the Garrison armors. When the first Garrison armor was successfully forged. System: Garrison armor has been successfully forged. Forgery proficiency increased by 2 points. Obtained 800 EXP. System: do you wish to store the experience obtained in the teleportation magic orb? Suddenly, Shifeng halted the work he was doing. He called out the system interface, taking a careful look. I obtained 800 EXP from forging? Shifeng placed a hand on his chin, pondering. Suddenly he said with a smile, how could I forget about this in a panic? The curse is only aimed at the experience obtained from killing monsters. It has no effect towards experience that is rewarded. Although a lot of time was needed to forge a piece of equipment, it was a different story if the success rate was very high. Shifeng's leveling speed at that time would be a lot faster than the average player, even with the 95% experience reduction state he was currently under. With such an opportune method in hand, the difficulty of the epic quest had been greatly reduced in an instant. Moreover, Shifeng had the Book of Forging. It could increase the success rate of forging the Garrison armor up to 60%. With it, Shifeng's leveling speed would greatly surpass even the expert players. It would not be long before he would finish collecting the 200,000 EXP. In such a way, Shifeng could earn not just money, but experience as well. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It was absolutely great. Fantasy Extinguisher most likely did not imagine there was such a quick method to dispelling the curse. Thinking up to this point, Shifeng immediately adjusted for the system to distribute 100% of the experience he obtained to be stored in the teleportation magic orb. Then, he picked up an ore and started happily forging equipment. Because of his improved mood, Shifeng's hands became much more nimble. The 100 refinement hammer in his hands was like a musical instrument, rhythmically beating out a moving melody. By the time Shifeng regained his sense of self, he was suddenly dumbfounded by the Garrison armor before him. Chapter 56. Glimmer Chestplate. The current Garrison armor before Xueqi was largely different than the previous ones. Its design had largely changed, and even the color had become a pale gold. This was absolutely not the Garrison armor. Crap. Xueqi understood he had failed. Before, he was too absorbed into his own excitement while he was forging the equipment. He smashed the hammer in whichever way he wanted, giving the Garrison armor a completely different appearance. He even felt good about it. Still, the appearance of this new plate armor looked extremely cool. It would definitely look majestic while worn. Following which, Xueqi chose to identify the equipment's information. The system took a whole 10 seconds before giving a conclusion this time. Unnamed, bronze rank plate armor. Level 3. Equipment requirement. Strength 12. Defense plus 23. Strength plus 3. Endurance plus 3. HP plus 120. Durability 35/35. Additional ability. Healing power. Healing effects received are increased by 10%. Restricted to shield warriors and guardian knights. System. Unnamed equipment has been successfully forged. Forging proficiency increased by 3 points. Obtained 1100 EXP. System. Congratulations! You are the first player to forge an entirely new piece of bronze equipment in God's domain. Obtained 3000 EXP, rewarding 1 runic hammer, mysterious iron rank, that increases forging success rate by 5%. System. Please give a name to the equipment you have created. You are also able to leave a personal mark on this piece of equipment. Xueqi was slightly shocked when he saw these notifications. He had unintentionally remodeled the Garrison armor, and successfully at that. He even created an entirely new piece of bronze equipment. His luck was truly good. The attributes of this equipment had already reached the level of an average mysterious iron equipment. If only the materials used were not so poor, it would definitely have become a mysterious iron equipment. In God's domain, players were able to create equipment. However, this was an extremely difficult task to accomplish. Not only did the player have to be extremely familiar with forging, but they also had to have a thorough understanding of the various materials available. After undergoing hundreds of trials, only then could completely new and good quality equipment be created. Usually, players who wanted to create new equipment would only start to do so after they had risen to become an advanced forger. After all, to become a master forger, not only did a player require sufficient proficiency, they also needed to create 3 entirely new pieces of mysterious iron equipment, and also 1 entirely new piece of secret silver equipment. Only after all those conditions were achieved could a player become a master forger. Due to this condition, the players who became master forgers were extremely rare. Meanwhile, Xueqi unintentionally created an entirely new piece of bronze equipment. Of course, the Book of Forging's effect played a large part in contributing to this success. Since the color has become a pale gold, and it's giving off a dull glow, let's call it the Glimmer chest piece. Xueqi immediately confirmed the equipment's new name. After which, he left an imprint of a black flame at a corner of the equipment. This imprint was the equivalent of a forger's name. In the future, when others see this symbol, they would know that this equipment was created by Master so-and-so. At the same time, the symbol also served to prevent others from falsifying the equipment's original creator. In the blink of an eye, the equipment's information also had a change to it. Glimmer chest piece, bronze rank plate armor. Level 3. Equipment requirement. Strength 12. Defense plus 23. Strength plus 3. Endurance plus 3. HP plus 120. Durability 35/35. Additional ability. Healing power. Healing effects received are increased by 10%. Restricted to shield warriors and guardian knights. On the right breast of the Glimmer chest piece, the mark of a black flame appeared. The flame constantly faded in and out of existence, further enriching the aesthetics of the Glimmer chest piece. System. Black flame imprint has been successfully registered. This imprint has been bound to your gaming account, and nobody else is able to use it. System. Naming successful. Forging design for the Glimmer chest piece has been automatically generated. Player can now voluntarily draw the forging design for the Glimmer chest piece, allowing others to learn the forging design. Suddenly, An additional window appeared in Xueqi's lifestyle panel. It was called Forging Design Creation, and it allowed players to create their own forging designs. Xueqi felt endless ecstasy when he saw this new window. This was the benefit of creating something original. As long as Xueqi had a pen and drawing paper, he could fabricate as many forging designs for the Glimmer chestplate as he wanted. This was the treatment that was only available for original creations. Forging designs were much more valuable than the equipment itself. In Xueqi's previous life, countless master forgers constantly researched various materials and used all sorts of methods to develop new equipment. Other than trying to become a grandmaster forger, their main goal was to obtain an original forging design. This item was the reason why some master forgers were extremely rich. The process of fabricating a forging design was very simple, and they could easily make tens to hundreds of them anytime they wanted. Otherwise, how much money could they make, even if they exhaust themselves by forging equipment every single day? With the Glimmer chestplate forging design, earning 10 gold coins was a small matter. At that time, it was even possible for Xueqi to earn up to 30 or 40 gold coins. After all, there were a lot of players in White River City and no shortage of guilds, either. Afterward, Xueqi continued forging Glimmer chestplates, no longer forging Garrison armors. Both of them required the same materials to make. However, the Glimmer chestplate had a cooler-looking appearance and even came with an additional ability. There was another benefit for an original creation. When forging your own creation, the success rate for it was increased by 10%, and the equipment would also have a higher chance to come with an additional ability. As long as the Glimmer chestplate's fame spread, Xueqi would have no trouble selling its forging design. Time passed bit by bit. Xueqi was completely unaware of his surroundings as he forged equipment. His heart was filled with the thoughts of money. 1 gold coin. 2 gold coins. 3 gold coins. Piece after piece of shining golden equipment piled up in the entire forging room. When 10 hours had passed since Xueqi rented the forging room, a loud notification had come from the system. Only then had Xueqi suddenly realized 10 hours had already gone by. His gains were even more shocking, however. He successfully made a total of 142 pieces of equipment, and the materials he had bought were nearly depleted. Amongst the attributes of the equipment, there were some that were good and some that were bad. The difference between them was the healing effects. The bad ones had 5%, while the good ones had 12%. There were a total of 76 pieces that had their healing effects below 7%, 48 pieces that had their healing effects between 7% and 9%, and 18 pieces that were between 10% and 12%. These pieces of equipment filled up over half of Xueqi's bag space. At the same time, Xueqi's proficiency also had a big increase, reaching up to 514 points. Xueqi was now halfway to becoming an intermediate forging apprentice. Xueqi took out the teleportation orb to have a look. The experience it had currently stored up was close to 150,000. As long as Xueqi continued putting in an effort for several more hours, he would be able to store up the 200,000 and immediately go to the Moonlight Forest. The speed at which Xueqi gained EXP was at least 2 to 3 times faster than the guild leaders of first-rate guilds. After leaving the Forging Association, Xueqi ran to the auction house. Currently, a majority of the average players should have already risen to level 3, whereas many veteran players should have risen to level 4. Only expert players would be closing into level 5. After all, a lot of experience was required to rise from level 4 to level 5. The amount needed was at least 3 to 4 times the amount needed to rise from level 3 to level 4. Right now was the perfect time for Xueqi to sell the level 3 bronze equipment. The various guilds should also have amassed quite an amount of wealth after more than 10 hours had passed, so it was a good chance for Xueqi to make a big catch. If another period of time were to pass, the prices of equipment would most likely be greatly reduced. After arriving at the auction house, Xueqi noticed that the number of logistic players present significantly had reduced. It seemed as if they were no longer as enthusiastic towards the Garrison armor as before. "Fellow brother, why are there suddenly so few people at the auction house?" Xueqi walked up behind a logistic player, asking. The tall and bespectacled logistic player was slightly surprised, explaining, "Have you been killing monsters outside town all this time? You don't even know about such a huge matter?" "Yeah, I've just returned after making some money from killing monsters and selling materials. Wasn't that Garrison armor super popular? I too wanted to buy a piece," Xueqi nodded. No wonder you don't know about it. 3 hours ago, a player called Hammer Trading had sold a lot of level 3 bronze plate armor equipment. Although the attributes on it were slightly weaker than the Garrison armor, its price was extremely low, costing only 4 silver coins. Moreover, that player even announced that there would be discounts if you contacted him and ordered in bulk. Naturally, the various guilds all contacted him and ordered. That equipment is now extremely popular. So who would remain here and pay attention to the Garrison armor? Chapter 57. Hammer Trading. Hammer Trading? Xueqi wanted to confirm once more. Correct. He even posted a thread on the forums criticizing the Blackheart forger that made the Garrison armor. Currently, the thread has already received more than 7 million clicks. With it, that guy has quickly become a famous person in White River City. I heard many large guilds have already sent out an olive branch to him, trying to recruit him with a high price. The logistics player had a face filled with envy while he spoke. He couldn't help but wish he could turn into Hammer Trading. That way, he would be able to live a life filled with beauties and riches. Xueqi only smiled at the player as he turned to walk towards an empty seat. He sat down and called out the game's official forum. He wanted to have a good look at this Hammer Trading who nearly robbed him of his business. In Xueqi's previous life, Hammer Trading did not reveal himself as quickly as this. Before Shadow scouted him, he had been playing God's Domain with tens of fellow schoolmates. With the support of these schoolmates, in addition to some chance meetings that had allowed him to become an intermediate forging apprentice, he managed to become acquainted with the upper echelons of Shadow. At that time, there were very few intermediate forging apprentices. The bronze equipment that was forged at the time was also very popular. Seeing such a situation, Shadow also wanted a share of the profits. So they paid a large price to hire Hammer Trading. Along with the continuous support of Shadow Workshop, Hammer Trading grew to become a shocking figure, becoming a relatively famous forger and earning Shadow a lot of money. Afterward, Hammer Trading also obtained the forging talent in addition to the great support from Shadow, allowing him to become a master forger. During those times, he did not have the slightest hint of respect for Xueqi, who was the guild leader of Shadow at that time. In the end, with the strong support of Hammer Trading, along with several master forgers and master potion makers, Lanhua financial groups gladly agreed to World Dominator's acquisition of Shadow. Otherwise, Lanhua financial groups would not have agreed to the decision without hesitation and dismissing Xueqi at the same time. Xueqi opened the forums for Star Moon Kingdom, his heart lamenting over how fate was toying with him. In this life, just when the Garrison armor was beginning to sell like hotcakes, Hammer Trading appeared to break off his road to wealth. Xueqi couldn't help but admit that he and Hammer Trading were rivals in life. Xueqi stole the forging talent from Hammer Trading, whereas Hammer Trading turned around to break off his road to wealth. Browsing the forums of Star Moon Kingdom, Xueqi quickly discovered a thread marked in red, positioned at the top of the forum. Upholding justice starts from us. We absolutely cannot let this Blackheart forger do as he pleases. I am a forger with a kind heart. These large bright red words caused Xueqi's brows to furrow. What kind of trouble is he trying to cause here? The number of clicks exceeded 10 million. Out of curiosity, Xueqi had opened the thread. Xueqi looked at the eloquently written condemnation that had over 10,000 words. The article had justifiably mentioned that the cost of making a piece of bronze equipment did not even exceed 1 silver coin. However, the Blackheart Xueqi sold his equipment for up to 30 silver coins. He was ripping off other players. Hence, Hammer Trading wanted to oppose Xueqi. He was even willing to sell level 3 bronze equipment without limit. Only, due to the failure rates, he had no choice but to sell them at 4 silvers apiece to reclaim his cost of making. This article received the support of a lot of players. They had all declared that they would no longer purchase the Garrison armor, and that they would support Hammer Trading's actions of kindness. Xueqi was speechless after reading the entire article. The entire article was just trying to put a smear on his reputation while heightening Hammer Trading's own self. At the same time, Hammer Trading wanted to state that he, too, could forge bronze equipment. He was clearly trying to use Xueqi as a stepping stone to raise his own worth and fame. He wanted to let the many large guilds extend an olive branch to him, and in turn, raising his own worth. However, Xueqi had to admit that Hammer Trading had succeeded. Not only had his fame risen in a burst, but many second-rate guilds had also sent him an invitation. There were even a few first-rate guilds who were willing to discuss matters of cooperation with hammer trading. Crap, not only has he broken off my path to wealth, he still wants to use me as a stepping stone? Xueqi could no longer hold back his 2 lifetimes worth of rage. He wanted to properly teach hammer trading a lesson. Did he think he was awesome for selling level 3 bronze equipment without limit? Xueqi did not wish to have any relation with hammer trading if he did not try to use Xueqi as a stepping stone. However, now that he had provoked Xueqi, he must be ready to pay the appropriate price. Xueqi felt it was just hilarious when he looked at the statements and numbers provided by hammer trading. Basic forging apprentices only had a 5% success rate when forging a piece of level 3 bronze equipment. However, looking at the numbers provided by hammer trading, it could be seen that he did not possess just a forging design for a piece of bronze equipment. He must have also obtained an item that increased the success rate for forging. In addition to using the intermediate forging room, his success rate should be around 20%. That was why he dared to spout nonsense and brought out several pieces of equipment for auction to prove his words. However, according to Xueqi's estimates, to raise his reputation, hammer trading was taking a loss of 1 silver coin for every piece of bronze equipment he sold. Although Xueqi did not know how much funding hammer trading had, he was still 10 years too early from competing with Xueqi. Selling at 4 silver coins, is it? Xueqi would sell his equipment at 4 silver coins as well. He had the Philosopher's Stone and the Book of Forging, so his initial cost was just slightly more than 10 coppers. Including his terrifying success rate, Xueqi was looking forward to seeing who had the last laugh. Without holding anything back, Xueqi immediately posted a thread on the forum anonymously. The article was titled "Shockingly High-Quality Plate Armor on Auction House." Afterward, he called up the interface for the auction house, placing 20 pieces of the worst Glimmer chestplate on auction. The healing power on the Glimmer chestplate had a remarkable effect on MTs when inside a dungeon. It was even better when compared to the Garrison armor. When compared to hammer trading's Savage chestplate, it was more than 2 times better. Players would naturally know which equipment to choose when they saw the Glimmer chestplate. Hammer trading, didn't you want to be famous? I'll let you become super famous. I'll turn you into a celebrity. Xueqi revealed a cold grin as he closed the interface. He turned around and left the auction house, setting up a stall outside to purchase stones and hard stones. 2 minutes after Xueqi had posted his thread, a few players noticed Xueqi's post. Average players were still very attentive towards high-quality equipment. Currently, the average player did not even possess a piece of bronze equipment, not to mention high-quality equipment. So, naturally, they wanted to get a glimpse. The moment these players arrived at the auction house, they were stupefied by what they saw. The attributes on the Glimmer chestplate was just too good. Especially the healing power. It was definitely the most beloved ability for an MT when inside a dungeon. After they finished looking at the attributes, the players chose to try wearing it. They looked at their own appearance when wearing the Glimmer chestplate. Streamline mold, dashing figure, and even a faint radiance coming off their bodies. There was also a flickering black flame on their left breast. They looked absolutely awesome. It was as if they had become the heroes from Legends while wearing the Glimmer chestplate, valiant and powerful. Then they looked at the selling price. It actually only required 4 silver coins. These players did not dare believe their eyes. Such high-end equipment was only selling for 4 silver coins. If they did not buy it, they would be doing a disservice to their own lives. Even if they did not have much money on their persons, they were willing to sacrifice everything they had to buy the Glimmer chestplate. Within a short 15 minutes, Xueqi's post had become the topic of the forum. There were even players who posted the information and appearance of the Glimmer chestplate, the equipment instantly arousing everyone's exclamation. Shield warriors and guardian knights could not help but wish they could obtain this high-end equipment right that instant. However, when they wanted to go to the auction house and buy it, there were only 4 pieces of the equipment remaining. Moreover, every one of those pieces had their prices bade up to more than 6 silver coins. One MT from an elite party had reluctantly chosen to borrow money from all over the place. In the end, he successfully won a piece for 7 silver coins. When the Glimmer chestplate arrived in his hands, he no longer minded the money he owed for it. With such attributes and dashing appearance, he would not have any troubles earning money in the future. Thinking up to this point, the smile on this shield warrior spread widely. Chapter 58. Equipment Competition. Just a short 20 minutes after Xueqi placed the Glimmer chestplates on auction, all 20 pieces of them had been sold off. The Glimmer chestplate's popularity was far better than the Garrison armor. There were even quite a few players showing off their purchases on the official forum. Previously, these players had to beg, using various methods, to join a party. Now, however, with their majestic-looking equipment, a simple shout would garner them tens of invites from elite parties for their own choosing. Following the Glimmer chestplate's rise in popularity, the players that failed to buy one were all beating their own chest in anguish. They hated themselves for not borrowing money to buy the piece of equipment since, right now, it was no longer being sold. Meanwhile, the Forging Association in Golden Sand Town was packed with people. The spacious hall was entirely occupied by players. The players present were the spokespeople for various guilds. They were here for only one purpose, and that was to invite hammer trading to their guild. Amongst the guilds present, there were quite a few that were very famous. There was no lack of spokespeople for third-rate guilds. If it were during ordinary times, these spokespeople would act proud and arrogant. They would use a condescending attitude when dealing with lifestyle players. Even so, these lifestyle players would still treat them with great respect. They would even shed tears of emotion, pledging their loyalty to the guild as they quickly signed the contract, becoming a part of a large guild. However, the current trend of the game had changed. The higher-ups of the guild strongly emphasized that they, the spokespeople, must definitely invite hammer trading. Otherwise, they could start packing up their bags. Hence why these guild spokespeople were like obedient grandchildren, standing and waiting in the hall for hammer trading summons. Inside an intermediate forging room on the second floor. Brother Hammer, you're so awesome. I admire you so much. Before, those third-rate guilds would not recruit you no matter what. Now, they're just like grandchildren waiting upon you. They would not leave even if you chased them away. A sexy female cleric in her mid-20s hugged around Hammer Trading's robust arm, giggling and speaking with admiration. Her bulging chest was rubbing against his arm. Hammer Trading had a very brutish appearance. He had a thick beard and beady eyes, and his skin color was similar to yellowish wax. Judging from his appearance, he looked to be over 30 years of age. Nobody was able to tell, however, that Hammer Trading was just a university student in reality. His age was just slightly over 20. Ha ha ha, this is just a small matter. However, I truly have to thank the fool who opened the road for me and has even hidden his name. He made all the large guilds know of my importance. Hammer Trading heartily laughed. He silently praised his own intelligence and wisdom for being able to think up of a plan to utilize that anonymous forger's fame. It allowed him his current good fortune, becoming every player's idol. Wait till I've entered a first-rate guild and rise into their upper echelons. It will be truly awesome. Right now, I'm just showing a small part of my prowess. Let those third-rate guilds continue waiting outside. I can use them to raise my own value and fame. Boss, what are we going to do about all the orders we've received? An assassin asked. Hammer Trading rolled his eyes at the assassin, saying in disdain, "Who cares about them? I'm taking a loss of 2 silver coins per piece of equipment. Do they think I'm running a charity? My goal has already been met. I'm only waiting for the first-rate guilds to come. Don't bother with the other players. Just tell them that we're too busy and don't have time." To use Xueqi as a stepping stone, Hammer Trading used up all the silver coins belonging to his classmates. He also spent a lot of credits to purchase a lot of materials and silver coins. Yet, he only forged over 10 savage chestplates from all those materials. So, selling each piece at a maximum of 4 silver coins caused a major loss for him. However, all his sacrifices were worth it. As long as he was recruited by a first-rate guild, he could get as many materials as he wanted, a huge salary, and even a line of female players desiring his attention. Hammer Trading felt invigorated just from thinking of all these benefits. Suddenly, a berserker entered the forging room with a panicked expression. "What happened, Hadron? Seeing as you're in such a hurry, has the upper echelon of a first-rate guild arrived?" Hammer Trading teasingly asked. "Big trouble. A lot of top-tier equipment has suddenly appeared at the auction house. All the players on the game's official forum are discussing it now, and the number of clicks on the post is madly increasing. The post has over 5 million clicks right now, and many guilds have started to notice it. Moreover, the equipment is being sold by the same anonymous forger. The equipment's price is set at a minimum of 4 silver coins. Everyone is starting to wonder about the identity of the forger responsible, and they are no longer paying any attention to you, boss. Moreover, there are already a few first-rate guilds who made a declaration on the forum. They are willing to hire that forger with a high salary and make him the chief forger of their guild. A few representatives of large guilds downstairs have also started leaving for the auction house. Hammer Trading's expression froze when hearing Hadron's words. He only managed to attract the attention of first-rate guilds after much difficulty. However, now, that anonymous forger stole his wind. If he did not steal it back, those first-rate guilds would most likely forget about him. He has such nerve to steal my wind and position. Don't blame me for not being polite. Making that kind of top-tier equipment has a high cost and low success rate. If you sell it at 4 silver coins, then I'll sell at 3 silver coins. I wonder just how much you can afford to lose? Hammer Trading abruptly stood up. He wanted to let Xueqi know he would definitely not let the position of chief forger, and his future happiness, go. He was already taking a loss of 2 silver coins for making the savage chestplate that had inferior attributes. Then, Xueqi would at least lose 4 to 5 silver coins for selling each piece of top-tier equipment at 4 silver coins. Maybe even more. Hammer Trading believed he could outlast Xueqi. But boss, we don't have many silver coins remaining. At most, we can afford to forge 10 more savage chestplates, Hedron worryingly said. What is there to be afraid of? I still have some funds. Worst comes to worst, I'll spend some more credits to buy materials and silver coins. I believe I can get rid of that little bastard. For every piece of equipment that little bastard sells, he's taking a loss of at least double or triple of ours. Why should we be afraid? Hammer Trading confidently asked. He assured himself that Xueqi, too, was trying to attract the attention of first-rate guilds by doing such lossful business. However, he would definitely be the final champion. An hour later, a few additional savage chestplates appeared on White River City's auction house. Their minimum selling price was 3 silver coins each. At the same time, a new post appeared on the game's official forum. For the benefit of the masses, I, Hammer Trading, have decided to sell the savage chestplate at 3 silver coins each. I will make a stand against this Blackheart forger to the end. Requesting support. Requesting encouragement. Suddenly, a wave of players followed the post, sending it to the top of the forum. Every one of them supported Hammer Trading's kind actions. As a result of this incident, all of White River City became lively. Everyone understood this was a competition between 2 forgers that were capable of forging bronze equipment. Every player in White River City watched on with anticipation. The ones who would profit from this exchange in the end would definitely be them, the players. It would not be long before they would be able to purchase bronze equipment at a low price. The various guilds also started watching by the sidelines, no longer expressing any of their intentions. They were all waiting for the final victor, while at the same time buying all of the equipment and developing their guild's strength. However, Xueqi himself did not know of this matter. He just finished purchasing stones and hard stones. Just after entering the auction house, he discovered that the number of players there had once more increased. Only then did he find out about this incident. You wish for a fight? Xueqi faintly smiled, then come. He called out the auction house's control interface, placing all of his Glimmer chestplates on auction. He assigned 20 pieces to be sold every hour, selling a total of 120 pieces of Glimmer chestplates. Such a number was definitely enough to torment Hammer Trading. Afterward, Xueqi used the money earned from selling Glimmer chestplates to buy hard stones and card sets. After purchasing all these items, Xueqi suddenly discovered that he still possessed a little more than 1 gold coin. From time to time, Xueqi would receive a notification from the system. It would state that another Glimmer chestplate had been sold, and some amount of silver coins have been deposited into his bag. Xueqi felt, the more silver coins he spent, the more silver coins he had. The amount he did not seem to be decreasing in the slightest. Xueqi considered selling some of his silver coins at the trade center, exchanging it for some spending money in real life. It was much better than just holding on to these silver coins. Chapter 59. Violet Cloud. Although Xueqi was having a relaxing time selling equipment, hammer trading was not. To compete with Xueqi, hammer trading was constantly forging new savage chestplates. The silver coins in his hands were no different than copper as they disappeared in a flash. Hammer trading also had to spend credits to purchase more silver coins, giving him an immense heartache. However, when he thought of Xueqi spending much more than him, his heart soothed by a lot. He wanted Xueqi to go bankrupt. Meanwhile, Xueqi left the lively auction house. He arrived at the bank, storing all the card sets and hard stones he had collected into his warehouse. Xueqi was extremely excited as he looked at over 1,000 slots of his warehouse filled. This was the benefit of being reincarnated. In his previous life, he in a miserable state thanks to these items. Now, however, they became one of his biggest sources of income. In the eyes of others, these items were still worthless. However, they would be priceless in the future. Their values could increase by over 10 folds, even tens of folds. It was especially true for card sets. A complete set would be worth tens of times more than a single piece. Even so, the large guilds would still have a hard time obtaining them. After he was finished storing the items, Xueqi made a trip to the grocery store. He bought 5 stacks of white paper and 1 stack of pen and ink. These 2 items could be bought at extremely low prices at the grocery store. A stack of 200 white papers only sold for 10 copper coins, whereas a stack of 20 bottles of black ink sold for 15 copper coins. The best feathered pen also only sold for 20 copper. Even so, Xueqi's casual purchase far exceeded the daily income of an average player. An average player would definitely be unable to spend in such a way. However, to Xueqi, these copper coins could no longer be considered money. Moreover, these items were all necessary for making forging designs. Xueqi would still buy them, even if they cost 10 silver coins. After buying the items, Xueqi headed for the Forging Association. "Sir, do you need any cooling beverages? I have here the best fruit juice in Red Leaf Town. It tastes extremely good, and it is only 1 copper coin per cup." A fragile-looking young lady nervously asked a male guardian knight. The girl was holding onto a small basket, her doll-like eyes carrying with them earnest expectations as she looked at the man. "Scram! Don't annoy me. It's just a virtual item, moreover a beverage, yet you are actually charging 1 copper coin for it? I wouldn't want it even if you were giving it for free." The guardian knight cursed in rage, pushing the 16 or 17 years old girl away. He then added, "My luck is just bad. Just you wait and see. I'll take care of you if I don't get to buy a Glimmer chestplate because you delayed me." The girl that was pushed down but did not cry. Instead, she stood up without wavering. She clapped the dust off her clothes, proceeding to another player with a smile on her face. Xueqi was faintly shocked. He never imagined the girl to be so tough. The average female player usually would not carry out such laborious tasks, not to mention receiving the insults from other players. When Xueqi looked at this girl, he was reminded of his own past self. Xueqi used observing eyes on the girl. Violet Cloud. Level 1 Cleric. Xueqi's heart slightly tightened when he saw this name. This girl was actually Violet Cloud, one of the top 10 clerics in God's domain. If he could recruit her to his side, his team would have a considerable future. Ha ha ha. This is a virtual game. Yet you're actually trying to earn money by selling cold beverages? Do you think you're milk tea, sister? Only idiots would buy them. Seeing that you're good-looking, why don't you come over to my place tonight? I can even give you 1 silver coin. A lecherous man in his 30s walked up to Violet Cloud, drooling as he harassed her. "Sir, I am only selling cold beverages. Please have some self-respect." Violet Cloud retreated a step, resolutely saying, "I've given you praise, yet you're still headstrong. You're but a lowly lifestyle player. If you don't agree with me today, then you can forget about doing business here in the future." The lecherous man threatened in rage. He blocked Violet Cloud's path, staring at her snow-white neck and licking his lips. "How could you act in such a way? You are simply shameless." Violet Cloud's eyes were filled with anger. However, she could not win against him in a fight. If she were to continue wasting time here, even her final hope would be gone. "Hee hee, I am shameless. What are you going to do about it? Bite me?" The man felt even better when he looked at Violet Cloud's panicked expression. Watching Violet Cloud trying to hold back from crying and the tears that were rolling about in her eyes, she became even more lovable. "Uncle, please give way. I want 1,000 cups of fruit juice." Xueqi used observing eyes on the lecherous man. His name was displayed as Drifting Blood, and he was currently level 3. At this stage of the game, his level was considered relatively good. Drifting Blood turned toward Xueqi, sending him a glare, saying, "Brat, this girl is mine. If you don't wish for something to happen to you, then scram. You want 1,000 cups? Then I want 10,000 cups. Do you think you're a tycoon capable of simply taking out 10 silver coins? If you continue competing with me like a fool, I'll send you back to level 0. If fighting were not prohibited within the town, he would have long since gotten rid of Xueqi. Ha ha ha. An amusing show this early in the day. Go for it. Don't hold back. Don't argue if you can fight. What a tycoon, spending 10 silver coins just like that. Unfortunately for him, he's angered Fatty Bear of Martial Union. There's going to be an amusing show to watch. Dog's fart tycoon. I bet he's just boasting to impress the girl. If he can really bring out 10 silver coins, I'll live stream myself eating shit. Quite a few busybodies stopped to watch the occurring scene. They all started a discussion about Xueqi's actions. Xueqi did not pay any attention to Drifting Blood at all. He grabbed Drifting Blood's shoulder, applying a slight force. Before Drifting Blood could react, he was already kneeling on the ground. No matter how much strength he used, even to the point where his face had turned beet red, he still could not stand back up. The surrounding onlookers were immediately dumbfounded. Xueqi was just too courageous, directly taking action within the premises of Red Leaf Town. Was he not afraid of being caught and jailed by the guards? Also, how did Xueqi possess such immense strength? He had actually suppressed a level 3 Guardian Knight with a single hand. Brat, you're dead for sure. Just you wait till the guards arrive. Drifting Blood looked toward Xueqi, smiling in disdain. However, after waiting for some time, the guards had still not shown up. Xueqi paid no attention to Drifting Blood as he firmly pressed him onto the ground, preventing him from even moving. Xueqi looked towards Violet Cloud, his other hand holding out 10 silver coins, saying, 1,000 fruit juices, thank you. The players on the street, who were previously discussing amongst themselves, suddenly turned silent, their eyes nearly popping out of their sockets. This was 10 silver coins, not 10 copper coins. Currently, they had felt extremely wealthy to even have a single silver coin on their person. On the other hand, Xueqi had just simply taken out 10 silver coins. How rich was Xueqi? Was he really a brother tycoon? Violet Cloud rubbed her eyes. She looked at the 10 coins in Xueqi's hand that gave off a silvery glow. Her expression filled with incomparable shock. Originally, she thought Xueqi was just trying to help her by saying so. Never would she have imagined that he would truly take out 10 silver coins to buy 1,000 cups of cold beverages that nobody wanted. Drifting Blood was similarly shocked. However, that shock quickly turned into greed. He thought about snatching the 10 silver coins and using them to buy a Glimmer chestplate. There would even be leftovers remaining. Brat, I'm a member of Martial Union. If you don't want to be killed back to level 0, then immediately give me 20 silvers. If you do so, I can consider letting you off this time. Otherwise, you'll have to take responsibility for the consequences. Drifting Blood's gaze was affixed to the 10 silver coins as he threatened in a chilling tone. Paying no attention to Drifting Blood, Xueqi looked at Violet Cloud. Seeing that the girl did not react, he asked, "Do you not have that much fruit juice?" I only have 156 cups of fruit juice with me. How about you give me a silver coin, and I'll sell all of the fruit juice to you. Is that all right? Violet Cloud worried that she would anger Xueqi. What would she do if he suddenly decided not to buy? At the same time, she also wanted to thank Xueqi for helping her, so she reduced her selling price. All right. I wonder how long it would take for you to make 900 cups of fruit juice? I want all of them, Xueqi nodded after some thought, asking. The surrounding players were all dumbfounded. What was he planning to do? Did this brat know the value of 10 silver coins? Did this brat truly fancy this young lady? I'm very slow at compounding fruit juice. If Sir is willing, I can be done in 30 hours. Violet Cloud became extremely glad at Shifeng's words. However, when she thought of her extremely slow speed, she worried that Shifeng would no longer wish to buy them. So she stretched out 5 fingers, hurriedly saying, "How about this? I'll just charge you 5 silver coins for 900 cups. Chapter 60, NPC. Looking at Violet Cloud's panicked expression, Shifeng could not help but break into a laugh. "No need. I can still afford to pay such an amount of money. If you really sold them to me for 5 silvers only, then you wouldn't be able to earn much." Shifeng waved his hand. Shifeng was not in a hurry to turn Violet Cloud into one of his subordinates. However, he was absolutely not going to let her go. If Shifeng acted too impatiently, he might cause her to grow suspicious of him. So, it was better to deepen their relationship first. Nobody could have imagined that Violet Cloud, one of the top 10 clerics in God's domain, would have such an appearance. A cleric god. That was a genuine tier 6 job. After 10 years passed, there were only a few who reached that standard. Even Fantasy Extinguisher was just a spirit saint, at the pinnacle of tier 5 10 years later. However, as a future cleric god, Violet Cloud was actually a lifestyle player during the initial periods of the game. It was such a waste of talent. Normally in God's domain, only players without any skills would earn money through methods other than killing monsters. However, the popular auxiliary jobs usually had very high requirements, such as a lot of funds, coupled with extremely low success rates. It was extremely hard for a player to survive in such a way without the support of a guild. Meanwhile, auxiliary jobs such as chef was much easier. The cost to support it was also extremely low and players alone could be supported by it by themselves. If their talents were high, and they were capable of creating delicious cuisines, they could still earn quite a lot of money in God's domain. However, delicious cuisines usually required advanced cooking recipes and materials. These items were hard to obtain, so trying to earn a lot of money would not be easy. It was truly hard to imagine that a future cleric god would be such a clumsy young lady. He recalled that Violet Cloud was one of the members of Ouroboros during her first 3 years in God's domain. When the snow goddess left Ouroboros, Violet Cloud similarly left the guild. From then on, she was just a solo player. When she had become a tier 4 great cleric, countless first-rate guilds tried recruiting her with shockingly high prices. Ouroboros also tried countless times to invite her back. Unfortunately, Violet Cloud did not pay attention to any of them. Her actions greatly angered those first-rate guilds. Since they could not obtain her, they would destroy her. Hence, they sent many experts to assassinate Violet Cloud. Unfortunately, not only did Violet Cloud not get destroyed, instead, she became even stronger. She massacred the players sent by these guilds, giving them a crushing defeat. Not long after, she advanced her job to tier 5, becoming a brilliant cleric saint. This caused those first-rate guilds to become even more helpless. In the end, Violet Cloud became a tier 6 cleric god. At that time, she searched for all those first-rate guilds to have her revenge. These guilds could only pay the price of blood to quell this matter. From then on, Violet Cloud became one of the top 10 cleric gods in the entire world. This incident caused the upper echelons of Ouroboros to greatly regret not asking her to stay all those years ago. As a result of this incident, everyone made fun of the inability of the upper echelons of Ouroboros. Instead of utilizing those with potential, they were only using those bootlickers whom they were fond of. In the end, they had missed the chance to become a super guild. However, Shifeng could not find a guild insignia on Violet Cloud's person right now. In addition to Violet Cloud's current appearance, Shifeng could guess Violet Cloud must have been discovered by the snow goddess later on, which in turn resulted in Violet Cloud feeling indebted to the snow goddess. Hence, Violet Cloud left Ouroboros when the snow goddess stopped playing God's domain. Meanwhile, Violet Cloud currently had yet to meet the snow goddess. It was the perfect chance for Shifeng to recruit her. Even if Violet Cloud was unskilled now, she had the potential to become a cleric god. As long as she was properly nurtured, she would definitely be able to become a cleric god in the future. Violet Cloud was no idiot. When she heard Shifeng saying so, she stared at Shifeng in a panic, both her hands covering her poorly developed chest as she retreated a step. "Sir, aside from selling fruit juice, I won't be selling anything else. If you are regretting it now, You can take back your money. Violet Cloud handed over the silver coins she had just received. However, her eyes still carried with them a hint of unwillingness as she did. At her time of despair, a person suddenly emerged, saying that he wanted to purchase 1,000 cups of fruit juice. Moreover, he was even willing to wait for 30 hours without reducing her pay. She would not believe Xueqi had no ulterior motives, even if she were beaten to death. Forget Violet Cloud. Even the surrounding players would not believe it. If Xueqi did not have any ulterior motives, why would he save her? He even spent 10 silver coins to buy those unwanted beverages. Xueqi looked at Violet Cloud's vigilant expression and actions. He then looked towards her smooth flat chest, suddenly laughing. You're overthinking things. I really have no interest towards your flatlands. I'm only buying this many because I just happen to have a use for fruit juice. If you don't wish to sell them to me, then so be it. I'll just find someone else to buy them from. Saying so, Xueqi released Drifting Blood as he turned away and left. However, Drifting Blood was not willing to let Xueqi go. Xueqi publicly humiliated him by forcing him to kneel with just a single hand. Moreover, when has Martial Union been afraid of anyone? Since the guards didn't seem to be paying attention, it would be extremely easy to get rid of Xueqi. Thinking so, Drifting Blood pulled out a weapon and used charge at Xueqi. With his sensitive 5 senses, Xueqi naturally knew of Drifting Blood's actions. Xueqi spun around to face him, pulling out the abyssal blade and using parry. Dang! Drifting Blood's greatsword hacked at Xueqi's sword. Instead of hurting Xueqi, however, Drifting Blood was knocked back by 3 yards. The durability of the greatsword in his hands instantly reduced by 2 points, and he looked at Xueqi in shock. He did not understand how a person like Xueqi would have such great strength. Xueqi was like a beast in human skin. The surrounding players were similarly shocked. Drifting Blood was a berserker, so he must have definitely added a lot of strength points. He was also at level 3, similar to Xueqi, so how could the gap between them be so great? These players did not know, however, that this was still only half of Xueqi's real strength. After all, Xueqi could obtain 6 free attribute points for every increase to his level. It was 1.5 times that of an average player. Not to mention Xueqi's body was protected by bronze and mysterious iron equipment. There was even the powerful magic weapon. Even with just half of these aspects, Xueqi's strength far exceeded the average player. If Xueqi's strength had not been reduced by half, just by activating the strength hidden basic skill and the strength provided by the magic weapon, Xueqi could destroy that basic greatsword without a problem. Brat, you're courting death. See how I'll take care of you. Drifting Blood naturally would not believe that Xueqi was his match. He immediately stood back up, lifting his greatsword as he looked at Xueqi. Idiot! Xueqi sheathed the abyssal blade, having completely lost interest in Drifting Blood. Watching Xueqi store his weapon, Drifting Blood thought Xueqi had become afraid and wanted to beg for mercy. However, he would not forgive Xueqi. Drifting Blood further increased the power in his hands. Just as Drifting Blood was about to slash at Xueqi, he was immediately sent into a fainted state. Before Drifting Blood could turn around and curse the bastard that attacked him, he suddenly discovered 6 silvery white armored guards standing before him. Without saying anything further, the guards placed Drifting Blood in shackles. "You've violated a town law. Take a trip with us. Any resistance and you'll be killed without consideration." The 2 guards grabbed Drifting Blood from both sides, turning around and dragging him away. "Crap, you've got the wrong person. I'm just an ordinary citizen. It's that bastard who attacked me first. You guys should be arresting him." Drifting Blood continuously pointed at Xueqi, yelling injustice in rage. However, the guards paid no attention to his bellowing, taking him away immediately. Everyone was also in shock. Why did the guards only appear now? Moreover, they even apprehended the wrong person. What sort of situation was this exactly? Could Xueqi actually be an NPC, a part of the nobility? Only nobles would have such authority. To the side, Violet Cloud had a blank expression on her face, unable to make sense of the situation. Why didn't the guards arrest Xueqi? Instead, they arrested Drifting Blood. Was Xueqi really a noble NPC? Violet Cloud's eyes were filled with reluctance as she watched Xueqi leaving. She bit her rosy lips, her delicate hands tightly gripping the hem of her shirt. Of course, she was not reacting so because of how handsome Xueqi was, but instead, she was truly in need of money. Those 10 silver counts were too important to her. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.